Joe Rogan Podcast, check it out.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
Train by day, Joe Rogan Podcast by night, all day.
It's a walrus dick, fossilized walrus dick. Somebody gave it to me. Wasn't my idea.
I could have had that information before I picked it up. Oh, never mind. I'm sorry.
Check. There we go. There we go. Okay. Yeah, Steve Ranella was here yesterday, and I guess the technical term is bacula. I didn't know it was called a bacula. That's what it is, dick bone.
I've got one at home. Oddly enough, a friend of mine who has been up in Alaska most of his life. He sent this. It's not like this. It's like on this ornamental stand, and it's polished. It looks like a piece of ivory almost. And I was like, what the hell is this thing? And but it was very nice. It was a gift, he said. I never thought to ask him what the hell it was.
A dick bone.
Until he came to visit one time.
Are we rolling? Sure. Yeah, let's just keep it from here.
What the hell?
Started off with, what type of animal was it?
A walrus bone.
A walrus.
Yeah, a walrus dick.
Same size as that?
No, this one was not as well endowed, but it's shinier, the one that I've got.
Maybe
polished.
It's older, more polished. Yeah. So here we are, Mike Baker. It is Friday. The elections were Tuesday. We still don't know who the new president is, which I guess I was having a conversation. I forget who told this to me, but the Al Gore Bush election took 45 days to resolve.
Yeah.
I forgot that it was that long.
Remember, they didn't get they didn't actually concede, I think, or whatever you want to call it, get sort of the final count in until 12 or 13 December. Right. So Al Gore and his lawyers, the DNC, they carried that in 2000. They carried that process out, and they were entitled to, just like in the current time, if the current president, if Trump wants to pursue remedies for what they perceive to be irregularities, then that by law you're entitled to do that. Now you don't want to get in the game of making spurious accusations and just throwing shit at the wall and seeing what sticks. So it has to be based in something. But this is not unprecedented, and so I think people need to keep that in mind.
I feel like there's part of me that feels like there's some fuckery afoot, for sure. But there's also part of me that thinks that, and this is going to sound ridiculous, but maybe for the psyche of the country, it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world if Biden won.
Yeah, no, I see where you're going with it. I don't, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't disagree as long as that fuckery is properly investigated. Yeah. Right? And so, and I think it's pretty sweet. I mean, look, you got to be consistent, right?
With your fuckery?
With your fuckery, right. If you've spent the past 4 years denying the results of the 2016 election, or chasing the Russian collusion bullshit, or if you were in the media and you've been just throwing that crap around about the Russian collusion and happily doing it, right? For the past 4 years, then you really don't have the moral high ground now to say that the other side can't, investigate, can't cry foul, can't say they've got concerns. And that we should just all, as Nancy Pelosi says, we just have to unify now. I mean, I love that.
Is that what she said?
Yeah, she just came out today, and it's just like, the good thing is we just need to unify.
Under who?
Under
you?
Under the president-elect, as she referred to him, or soon to be, Joe Biden. But I see what you're saying. Look, I'm far more concerned because I like a divided government, right? I wouldn't want to see one party, regardless of which party it is, have control of everything. I always think that's when shit happens, or things go wrong.
Right.
So I'd be fine, right? The Republic's going to survive just fine if, for instance, the Senate remains in control of the Republicans. The House, it's going to be tighter now. Look, I mean, the House, Pelosi lost. Conservatively, right now they're saying 5 seats, but there's 10 other seats leaning towards the Republicans in a heavy way. So she could have a 15-seat turnaround, 16-seat turnaround. It's going to be a very thin majority that she's going to have, but that's fine. So they've got the House, the GOP has the Senate, Biden, Harris, they win if they win. Okay, we're going to be just fine, right? My concern is the Senate. If that tips over and the deciding vote is cast by Kamala Harris, because it's 50-50, then we got a problem. And I think the most fascinating thing about all of this, which is getting lost in the wash because naturally we're all distracted with what's going on between Trump and Biden right now, is those 2 Senate races in Georgia, right? It's 48-48. Likely we're getting Alaska, North Carolina wrapped up for the Republican side. They're going to end up at 50. You got 2 seats left, right? And those are both in Georgia. Those are both going to be runoffs, basically, in January sometime. Because unless one of them hits the 50% threshold, if what's his name, Perdue gets the 50% plus 1 vote, okay, then now it's 51 to the Republicans, and they have control of the Senate still. Otherwise, I think we got problems if the Dems end up with the White House, the Senate, and Congress. I'm just never comfortable with one-party rule.
No, that sounds terrible.
Yeah. My God, it does.
Well, it's just I've never paid attention to the Speaker of the House until it was Nancy Pelosi.
And it seems like it's been Nancy Pelosi for 112 years.
Well, was it the Speaker of the House that was Dennis Hastert? Is that the guy that we were talking about the other day that got arrested for molesting kids?
Oh, kid toucher, yeah.
Wasn't he the Speaker of the House?
Was he Speaker of the House, or was he? I guess he was, yeah, for a period of time.
Was it?
Or minority leader.
That's crazy that guy got to that position and then wound up getting 15 months. Mm-hmm. Here it is.
From
99 to 2007, so quite a while. 8 fucking years. Longest serving Republican Speaker of the House in history.
Wow.
And he was a kid fucker.
And what was his sentence? His sentence was only 15.
15 months.
How does that work?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. How does that work?
Yeah.
He knows where the bodies are buried.
Yeah.
That's how that works.
Yeah.
They're like, look, 15 months, it'll be gone before you know it. Come on, Dennis.
It'll be gone before you know it.
Keep a secret, Dennis.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
But I think, look, my favorite, it's the irony, right? It's a lack of self-awareness on both sides that I always find fascinating. My favorite tweet so far since Tuesday, since the election day, was after, I think came out on Wednesday, some progressive tweeted, I think I'm almost getting it word for word, Republicans are such sore fucking losers. And I read it, and I thought, well, this has got to be like a parody, right? They got to be kidding around. And so then you have to dig in there and investigate and read everything else they've been reading or writing. And you look and you realize, no, they're serious. And then you read the thread after that, and all the responses are like, oh, that's so true. That fuckers, they can't take a loss. And you're thinking, there is no fucking self-awareness on that side.
I have no respect for people that mass generalize entire political parties like that. It's so stupid. Republicans are such this. Mm-hmm. Like, come on, just stop. I know what you do. You're just spitting out nonsense. Like, it's one thing if you want to say that. I guess it is what you're saying on Twitter, though. The problem is it's written down, right? So you take it more seriously. But if you're just having coffee with your friend and you're like, Republicans are such fucking sore losers, and like, yeah, right? Like they would say they are, right? You know, but when you're saying it to the whole world, it's like you're allowing the whole world to listen in on a conversation you're having at Starbucks. You got to be a little bit better at being self-aware and also recognizing that if you're a hardcore Democrat, you spent the last 4 years saying Russia got Trump into power. And even after the evidence comes out that that's not true, you're in denial of that, and they've never taken it back.
And you've got different groups, right? I mean, and this is, again, you're right. This is on both sides. This is right. This is left. This does. It's always, they say, oh, that coffee went all over the place.
Yeah, but I caught it.
You did? No,
I did. It went over a little bit. I caught it in mid spill. Just leave some towels in here, buddy. I always spill.
Leave some towels and.
It's a shaky time.
We do a Zoom call.
How was that? Isn't that crazy?
Wow. Who thinks about doing that?
It's not just one person that's been busted doing that either. No. It's quite a few.
Yeah.
You know what this shows you really? How many men are addicted to pornography? That's what it shows you. How many men are addicted to masturbation and pornography? So much so that while they're supposed to be working during the day, they can't help themselves.
Yeah. And you would think, though, I mean, that's a very good point. It's just, you're stunned by the idea that perhaps during a business Zoom call, you could set that aside for that 30 minutes or so.
I mean,
but,
I wonder if they're still listening to the conversation, and how does it not break your concentration?
Who knows?
You know,
some people find different things interesting. So we're gonna run through those second quarter numbers. Oh God, I gotta come to second quarter numbers. The logistical supply chain.
What is like the status right now? It's like Pennsylvania. So here we are. First of all, it's Friday. Okay, the election was on Tuesday. We're supposed to know who the president is. How the fuck does an Alaska know? I just read that Alaska only has 50% reported.
Yeah. Yeah,
You
well, you know, it's a
lazy
big space.
fucks.
It's a big space. It's a lot of distance for those, sled dog teams to go with the ballots.
Is that what it is?
No, I can't imagine
Someone's
that's what it is,
lazy.
right?
Someone up there is lazy.
I mean, it is funny because look, if one side's winning 2-1.
But there's 50% left.
Yeah,
You
can't call it. No, that is okay. That's true. But yeah, so where we are is what the hell? It's Friday, and
It looks
you
like
would've thought-
Pennsylvania is leaning towards Biden.
Yep.
Georgia's leaning towards Biden. It's basically over for Trump.
If you look at it, you don't see a lot of avenues for success on this one. I mean, look, Pennsylvania, they're still saying, rightly so, it's too close to call. They've got 8,000 some odd military absentee ballots still to count. The assumption would be
Those would be Trump.
Those would be for Trump, just like they assume a lot of the mail-in ballots in the Philadelphia area or Allegheny, or it will be for Biden. But they have to go through that process. Now, Pennsylvania is an interesting one, right? I mean, there's a lot of people that are getting very pissy about Trump's attitude towards this whole thing. And could he be more eloquent? Could he just shut the fuck up and let the system work, right? Let his legal teams do what they're supposed to do and what they're entitled to do. And just say, we just have to work through the process. Well, yeah, he could, of course he could, but he's not going to. But Pennsylvania is interesting because the problem up there, and maybe there's no fucking fraud. You have to. It's like an investigation, right? When you do an investigation, you have to base it on right from the very beginning. You have to base it on facts, on something concrete. Right? If you don't, you're building an entire investigation potentially on very shaky ground. The whole thing comes tumbling down, and it's a house of shit. So. It's like an operation, intel operation. Everybody remembers, or maybe not, the WMD, fiasco, from Iraq. The idea that, oh my God, we got to get in there because they got WMD. Well, a lot of that, was based on one source reporting, right? Which got into the reporting chain and then got reinvented in another report, and then got self-corroborated in other reporting. And before you know it, you're confirming all the same information from originally that one source, right? Very shaky. So you're not building an invasion of a country on solid information. So with Pennsylvania, if people are looking at that and going, oh, there's all sorts of shit going on and it's fraud, well, you got to step back and you got to say, okay, where are the problems? Now, there's a handful of issues that I think are legitimate in Pennsylvania, one of them being this idea that the state Supreme Court circumvented what the legislative branch in Pennsylvania said about ballots and when you can count the ballots up until what time, the postmarking on the ballots. And so that's a legitimate issue that probably or could end up in a higher court is, did the state Supreme Court in Pennsylvania have that right, according to the Constitution, to just – because the state houses in each state set the laws about this very thing. And you got a problem, though, in Pennsylvania because the state house is run by Republicans. Now, this bullshit about how long it's taking to count the votes could have been sorted out if a year ago, or not even that, if 6 months ago, when we knew this pandemic was a problem, when we knew we were going to get unprecedented levels of mail-in votes, if the Republican state house had said, okay, here's when we can start counting those mail-in votes, as soon as we start receiving them. How about that? So they could have been well ahead. So it's both sides have fucked this up, right? It's not one side or the other. Both sides, once again, the truth is always, we talked about this before, is always somewhere in the center, and that's true here. But anyway, Pennsylvania, close to call. This idea that they're preventing observers from coming in or standing close enough, because they allowed them in, but then, were they able to stand close enough to observe anything of any value? That should never be in question. Right?
So they let them in. Is this all been corroborated? This is proven? They let them in, but they wouldn't let them actually observe what they were doing?
There was delays in some districts, right? Because counties run these elections, and so some counties do it by the book, and others apparently have decided they can do things a little bit differently. So some they were not able to get in as far as access goes. As once the voting started, some they weren't able to go in for the pre-vote counting or the pre-voting day counting of these ballots, and others they were able to go in and they were kept maybe 25 feet back instead of what
That's
apparently
crazy.
was like a 6 feet distance that had been. I think don't quote me on this, but maybe responsibly decided that you could be 6 feet away because of social
how could you
distancing.
read it 25 feet away? That seems insane.
Exactly. Some places had them watching on monitors, which again is useless. But so in those, the problem there is that should never happen. You should be able to always agree, both sides, that you need campaign observers in there, and they have that right to observe the counting of these things. And it all comes down to the same issue, whether it's that or whether it's counting ballots because or discarding ballots because the person's died previous to the election. It all comes down to the perception of fraud. There may not be anything going on in this election in terms of fraudulent activity when all is said and done and all the investigations are done. But the damage is already done because people perceive it as possible. A lot of people perceive it as likely or as happening. And if you don't have a transparent system set up, right, that is easy to see, you've got to be able to look at it and not be told by politicians or not be told by election officials or the media that it's a good, credible system. The voter has to be able to look at the process and say, yeah, that's fair and transparent. And it's like it's like cover for action, right? If I'm doing surveillance on some target, right, and I'm out in the middle of some, whether it's a shithole or whether it's an urban center in a developed country, I have to have cover for action. I have to have a reason that is plainly obvious by passerbys or by local authorities or police that patrol the area. Oh, I get it. That's why he's there, right? We did an op one time where it was overseas. We were waiting for a target to show up, and it was a port, right? And a lot of people coming and going, tourists, workers, commercial workers, everybody coming and going from this busy port. And what you didn't have a lot of people just hanging out, right? There weren't a lot of opportunities just to hang out. So you had to have a reason, right? So what do? You set somebody down there with a couple of pieces of luggage and a baby stroller and a baby. Don't ask me where we got the baby from. And you
just stole a baby.
Hey, it's for the good of the country. And we requisitioned it. We got it. We have a baby requisition department down in the basement of the agency. No, we don't. No. It was my own baby, actually. It was my daughter when she was a little baby.
You used your own daughter during a covert operation?
Why, is that wrong?
I don't think so.
No, I'm
just curious.
Yeah, and so it worked like a charm because they could sit there for hours, right, waiting theoretically for a boat, but obviously pulling surveillance from an observation post, and people walking by were like, yeah, there's some lady with a baby, suitcases. To cover for action. They whacked an industrialist in Germany one time, where the hit team, it was very elaborate, but they did what they always do. They surveil, they figure out the guy's routes, and as is usual, your choke points. That's what they're looking for. You get in a vehicle and you drive, you're going to have choke points. Usually, it's at the place of work or it's at your home, right? But it may be somewhere in between. Maybe there's an avenue that's always blocked up. Maybe there's a turn that they have to come to a complete stop. You're looking for that choke point where you can lay out the attack, where you control the environment. Right? There was a place in the Philippines, it still exists. We used to call it Ambush Alley, right? Because you'd start at one end, you go to the other, and it was a cut through. There weren't that very many of them, and sometimes it was the only one to get from one part of the city to another. And once you got in there, you just hit the gas because you were a host. If you got caught up in there and there was an insurgency going on, and so roadblocks and local hit teams, they call them Sparrow units, were always a concern. And so that was a choke point. Ambush Alley was a choke point. Anyway, long story short, they whacked this industrialist, but the hit team, who after they'd done their surveillance and they decided where that point was for the attack, they showed up one day in construction gear and construction uniforms and started digging a trench as a construction team, right? You can look that. You drive by, you go, oh, they're building something, or they're digging a trench, right? It's cover for action. And so it's this, I don't know how I'm making this analogy, but it's the same with the election. Voters got to be able to look at it and go, it's transparent. I see why it's transparent. I can move on.
You're talking about fuckery.
Yeah.
You're talking about them. They did a bad job of hiding corruption. That's what you're saying. You say cover for action it's deceptive. Like what you're describing is deceptive.
Well, what I'm saying is the system has to be clearly transparent and honest and credible by just from the voter's perspective. You can't do shit like adjust the rules about just because we say, pandemic, now we got to change the rules, and these states are going to change them and these states won't, and this state has
how did you make the connection from that to cover for action?
Because I know.
Because you
thank
think
you
like
for
an
bringing me back
operative.
in. Yeah. Cover for action is because sorry, I know this is try being in my house and try being part of my family and following me at the dinner table. It's because with cover of action, just like with looking at the voting and saying, okay, I see why it's transparent. I see cover of action. You got to look and go, okay, I get it. That's what they're there for, and you move on. You don't think about it. You don't have to be told. You don't have to stop and go, excuse me, what are you doing here? Right? It's just evident on the face of it.
How are there not universal voting rules for each state that are federal? How is it that different states are allowed to come up with their own rules? Like I was reading something about in Georgia, they were allowing people who had made mistakes on their ballots to redo their ballots, and they called them curing the ballots.
Yeah. You've got that. You've also got
what is that?
You've got the ability to change your vote too in some places.
What?
Yeah, you can change your vote up until up until the deadline of the election day. There are some places where you can go in, you have to request it, and then you can change your vote. Which, if you think about it, is not bad, because if on election day you wake up and you find out that the candidate you voted for has committed murder, then you think, okay, I'd like to change my vote.
Well, I think a lot of people did want to actually change their vote after the second Biden debate. That was a big Google search. God. There was a thing that they were talking about, the Google searches for how to change your vote went up some astounding number.
Yeah,
because he just had a really terrible debate. No one has done worse on the campaign trail and won. That's
I
one
agree
thing.
with you.
And more people vote
in
this election than have ever voted.
Yeah,
since like the early 1900s or something. Right?
Kamala Harris. I don't think. Maybe I'm wrong on this, but I think we should fact check this. But I don't think she held a press conference during the entire campaign. I don't think she had one single press conference. She had appearances, right? But I don't think she actually held a press conference during the entire campaign. That's astounding, right? But yeah, I agree. Look, we're in this position that we're in right now in a variety of ways, and because of the pandemic.
For sure.
Yeah.
And also because the people that hate Trump really hate him. Like, I remember people not liking George Bush and maybe even hating George Bush, W, and even HW. But not like this. This is a different level of hate. Yeah. But also, it's a different level of love. They love him in a way that I don't ever remember seeing. I don't remember seeing, like, these fucking lines of cars that are miles long honking with signs for any other candidate other than Trump.
No. Well, people used to go crazy over Millard Fillmore. I remember that. That was...
Who was that?
Oh, they love Fillmore. No, I don't.
You're joking?
I am joking.
That's a terrible joke.
Terrible.
How dare you?
I just went with it.
Maybe Ross Perot. People were really into Perot.
Oh, yeah.
But those are the same people that are now into QAnon. It's like...
Yeah.
Somebody sent me a video. I went down a QAnon rabbit hole last night of how Trump is set up all the Dems, and this is a sting operation, and that there's God, I forget what they were saying, that this is all of the ballots have been blockchained, and you heard this, Jamie?
Yeah. I had to dig this up last night. It's been going around for 2 years apparently, and like popped back up this week.
Good God.
But the conversation that these two guys were having about it was like people that are really into comic books talking about their favorite characters. It's so weird because it's clearly, and this is not to disparage people that think there's something illegitimate about this election. This is not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about, people that are into certain conspiracy theories, and QAnon is one of them, where it becomes a thing they're into. Whether it's real or not, it's a thing they're into.
It's like you're in a club.
Yes, yes. And they're all in
Yeah.
on this thing. And they're constantly tuning into this thing to find out what the latest is. It's almost like a serial show that you're reading about on message boards. You know, it's like it's so, like he's making these little drops of information of what's going to happen, and then some people are experts on these drops.
It's like a Ponzi scheme. You bring your friends in, and then you're a little bit higher up the chain in QAnon, and so you know a little bit more, and you've got more friends within it. But it's
strange.
It is strange, and I mean, look, this has surfaced a lot of weird behavior and groups over the past 4 years, and look at I mean, you've got all these various elements. You've got the resistance. You've got the Never Trumpers. You got this group, the Lincoln Project, right? And those guys. If anyone scored big out of this whole 4-year run and particularly this past year, it's got to be those guys, right? I'd love to see.
What is the Lincoln Project?
Well, they're some guys that claim to be Republicans, conservatives, and oh my God, we're horrified at the state of the Republican Party, and so we've set our line in the sand and never Trumpers basically, and so we're going to raise a lot of money and we're going to fight this thing, and we're going to make sure that we fight for all the Democratic candidates, and we're going to get Trump out of there, and of course we're conservatives and Republicans, and we're going to do this because hey, look, they didn't get jobs in the administration, right? And so I have a feeling that part of this started when they didn't get enough hugs, right? And they didn't get what they wanted out of this. Part of it maybe is they're actually legitimately upset with the administration over certain things, but. I can't help but think that they just raised a lot of money. I'd love to see, how you do with charities. You look and see what their spend is, how much of it goes to administration for the project, and how much of it actually goes and is used for things like actual ads. I'd love to see how much money ended up in their pockets, because I guarantee you, once this is over, if Biden wins, they'll somehow morph into something that now makes money by fighting some of the policies that the Biden White House wants to push out there. It just seems odd. But there's a lot of groups like that have come out. A lot of people, spouting their self-righteousness over the idea that Trump's a terrible person. I don't think he's a great person, right? But we've talked about this before. I don't think you need to actually like your president. You need to like your policies and the operations that we're doing overseas and the things that we do. Would I prefer a kinder, gentler, more eloquent? Oh, good. Yeah, I don't know. It's all touchy-feely, but I like the policies. Did I dislike Trump enough, right, to vote for the potential policies that are coming down the pike with a Biden White House and a Senate possibly controlled by the Democrats? No, but, then again, I voted for Kanye, so what do I know? Well,
that's why figureheads are weird, right? Because a figurehead could be polarizing. They could be someone that people love no matter what they do, and they could be someone that people hate no matter what they do. And that's where it gets strange, where policies and the direction of a government is attached to an individual personality.
Yeah, and we've definitely seen this more. Like you said, it's got that, as a lot of people on the left will say, it's got that cultish feel, and because he does draw this the animosity from the left, obviously, but it's this bizarre devotion that you get, and I think it's not necessarily, a lot of the folks aren't necessarily devoted to Trump. It's not that. It's not a Jim Jones thing as much as they're devoted to the idea of waving the flag, of standing up for America, which is all good shit, right? But you gotta keep it in perspective, right? And I just think we've lost perspective in a lot of things. I mean, you talk to somebody on the left and they'll say, "Oh my God, it's the death of the republic we've been facing for the past 4 years. It's the toughest time we've ever seen." And you think, fuck's sake.
Settle down.
Yeah, and then you go to the right, and they're like, "Oh my God, if Biden wins, we're fucked." And
Settle down.
Yeah, exactly. Settle the fuck
Everybody,
down. Everybody, settle
both
the
sides,
fuck down. Right.
Settle down.
Get into the center.
I definitely
get some
think
work done.
I like a good left, right. I like that. I like when the country goes left and the country goes right. I just think it gives everybody a chance. It settles everybody down, and it also gives everybody a much clearer understanding of the reality of what it means to have someone as a president. How much does it actually affect your day-to-day life?
Right.
And what really affects your day-to-day life is what we were talking about earlier, the actual policies. Whether Trump's an asshole or not, the real problem with having an asshole for a president is it encourages other assholes to be assholes. And this is the first time there's ever been a president that actually encouraged assholishness. But
I mean, he came out yet last night, this press conference, which a lot of people were horrified by, and then a lot of people again on the right kind of cheered. And I think his first sentence out of the gate, in the midst of all this sort of concern and chaos and the angst from everybody, was look, if you just count the legal votes, I've won easily. Okay, all right. You know what? It's not necessary. You don't have to do that. You can say, this is still being contested.
Yeah.
We're doing,
that doesn't help anybody.
We're concerned about some potential irregularities, but don't just start throwing shit at the wall because it demeans the whole process. And so anyway, and that's where it all falls apart. People start losing that credibility or that belief in the system. But then again, if you've spent 4 years attacking the credibility of the system by saying it was the Russians that put him in there, right? And then talking about all this other shit about, he may never leave, and he's and they were accusing him over the past couple of years. I'll bet he's going to try to steal the election, right? And so now when the other side's like, we're kind of concerned about some of the things we're seeing, they're like, for fuck's sake, don't be, can't we just all get along?
Is anybody accusing the Republicans of voter fraud in the states that Trump won?
Yeah. That's a good question. I have not seen anything related to that.
I haven't seen that either. How
nothing.
come?
Yeah. Probably because those states don't matter. I hate to say it that way, but
how dare you?
I know. But
talking about Texas.
I know. Well,
you're in Texas,
no,
sir.
Texas mattered. Are you kidding me?
Right, but
Texas mattered.
But Trump won Texas. Is there any talk of?
But the expectation was that he would, even though there was this talk about there's going to be this. Right,
like no one's talking about voter fraud in California for Biden.
Right. Or it's oh my God, there's something hinky's going on in Mississippi, right? So that doesn't happen. But I think look, the polls got it all wrong. The only time the pundits were right, I think, is when they were citing that look, it's going to come down to a handful of important states, and they usually would cite Pennsylvania and Georgia
and Florida,
Arizona. So they got that right. Everything else they got wrong again. But again, if whether there is or isn't, if you've got legitimate grievance, if you've got potential evidence, and you look at a place like Nevada, and if you've got Nevada, if you've got a few thousand ballots that are in question because it appears that either they weren't residents of the state or perhaps they died some time ago.
Is that true? Is that what's going on right now?
That's what they're claiming. And,
who's they?
The Republican Party, and they've filed a suit, and they've submitted documentation supposedly to the DOJ about these ballots. But I guess my point is, whether it is or isn't, if that's potentially a legitimate concern, it's not going to turn things. It's not going to change anything, right? It's not going to. It's the vote count's not going to be big enough to change Nevada's decision, likely.
So the numbers of, if there is fraud, the numbers are not enough to be relevant to the overall count.
Right, which is the issue in most of these places. Look, you're not really going to overturn
100,000 votes.
No, and it's not going to happen in Philadelphia if you say, okay, we're going to toss out these 700 ballots or whatever. But I think it is important. Again, going back to this idea that you've got to maintain faith in the system by showing people that it's credible.
Right.
So if there are irregularities, just like the Dems did in 2000, and just like in other elections, it's not uncommon at all to have a contested election result in this country. The law accounts for it. And so go after that, explain what you're doing, be transparent in what you're doing, and then, for fuck's sake, learn from it for the next one around, right? Make these changes. And maybe this was an anomaly because of the pandemic, and we're never, ever going to see this many mail-in ballots again.
I just find it hilarious whenever I say that people should be able to vote online because you could bank online. Like, no, there's too much room for fraud. As opposed to what? Stacks of paper that people can count? The fuck are you talking about?
Yeah.
It seems like you can get a code that is unique to you, like a QR code, or some biometric code that's based on your FaceTime or your fingerprint if you have an Android phone, and it will 100% prove that it's you.
Yep.
And you can fucking vote off your phone.
Yeah.
Like, that seems pretty easy to me. I don't get it.
We should be able to come up with a better system. And you're right. The problem with this was, again, it wasn't explained well enough, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you have the perception, whether it's existing, whether it's happening or not, you have this perception of fraud. Look, I mean, you've got, and social media just pumps the shit out of this and causes this problem in a major way. You've got these videos now that are floating around Twitter and elsewhere of ballot workers working at polling stations filling out ballots. Mm-hmm. And so they'll just like lock in. They'll take 10 seconds of somebody taking an empty ballot, stamping it, filling it out, and then putting it in the box, and then taking another one, stamping it, filling it out. And people will go, oh my God, they're falsifying ballots. They're just creating ballots out of whole cloth. And then that'll blast around. And before you know it, you got 100,000 people retweeting this bullshit without investigating it. Going back to what I said before, you can't build your argument on shit. Now if that's a problem, fine, investigate it. But you also have to look at what are the other scenarios. Well, maybe these are all ballots that wouldn't fit through the scanner or that got kicked out. And so now what do they got to do? They got to put them onto a new ballot, run it through, or whatever. I mean, that happens, right? That's a thing.
I don't understand what you're saying. If someone is right, is the person in front of them who filled out the ballot with them?
No.
Okay.
No.
So if someone fills out a ballot and there's an issue with that ballot, then you allow a worker to make a copy of that ballot?
Under observation.
Under observation by who?
Campaign. Whichever. I'm not a polling
But
expert.
that's the thing, though. Like, is it a Republican?
Right.
If he's filling it out for a Republican, is a Democrat over his shoulder to making sure
you're supposed
that
to have
one of each?
One of each. Yeah, you're supposed to have both parties
And
have the ability
both driving
to have them in
Ferraris afterwards.
Yeah. No, so I guess my point is whether it's that or whether it's you can't just assume that the shit that you see. How do we not know this, right? By now, the shit that you see on social media, you should probably question it and at least do your own research and find out whether it's true before you then kick it back out or talk about it like it's gospel.
Here's what I'm ready to talk about like it's gospel, even though I have no evidence whatsoever, because people keep saying it to me over and over again. In Wisconsin, of 100,000 votes came in for Biden overnight, and they were 100% for Biden. They were for no one else. Is that true? You know what I'm talking about?
I've heard that. I don't know whether it's true or not.
Sounds like a QAnon video.
Yeah, it does. I mean,
they've got the blockchain. Don't worry. Trump is on the case.
Statistically, it would seem surprising. I mean, you got 89% or 90% voter turnout in particular areas. You think that's pretty damn high. But, and again, those are the things that, fine. Let the system work. Let the legal teams do it because they're citing it. They're looking at it too.
Right, but they think it's too late. The issue is, like, I was talking to someone who understands these things very well, and they were describing it to me that when the 2000 election came along with Bush and Gore, that Bush had fantastic lawyers, like the cream of the crop, and that is not the case right now with this scenario where they're dealing with legal fraud or the potential for fraud.
I don't know. I would say
no. Joe Biden did not
get 100%.
Yeah, who made this? Jamie Snopes.
No local Milwaukee.
More
news.
communist bullshit.
Is this from Vox?
Yeah.
What is this from?
It's
Local Milwaukee news station.
Well, they're probably communists.
I'm sure.
This fucking local Milwaukee. Get out of here. No, Joe Biden did not get
I read
100% of all Milwaukee absentee ballots. Yeah, but that's not. But hold on a second. That's not what the claim was. The claim was a bunch came overnight and that they were 100% for Biden. So that could still be true, and they could still say that he did not get 100% of all absentee ballots. Because that's not what the claim was. So that communist newspaper that you just read from,
Don't
that
scroll.
hates America.
Don't move it yet. Look over there. The Federalist. Yes. This is the headline. Yes. Democrats are trying to steal the election in Michigan and Wisconsin.
Okay, read the Federalist, because those are good Americans.
Yeah.
This was 2
Doesn't
days
care.
ago, though.
Well, that's when it was supposed to be happening. As of this writing, it appears that the Democratic Party machines in Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania are trying to steal the election. As reporters and commentators went to bed early Tuesday morning, all three states were too close to call. But President Trump led former Vice President Joe Biden by comfortable margins, far beyond what had been predicted in the polls. None of the networks called these states because enough mail-in ballots remained uncounted that it could swing either way. But Trump's position looked good. But here's what's wrong with that, and this is what Kyle Kalinske explained to us, that mail-in ballots were overwhelmingly Democrat because Democrats tend to be pussies who are scared to go there in person because they don't want to get coughs. Is that correct? Is that what he said?
There was also something I was hearing that
I made that up.
A Republican, like
no one even cares.
They all wanted to push for one day. They wanted to do it all in one day. They didn't want to vote early. It's like a sense of pride type thing.
Well, look, I mean, Trump did, make a big deal about telling his supporters show up on the day, right? I'm a vote in person kind of guy. I'm old school. I like to show up. You do that. Someone
it feels good. Then
someone
you get
announces,
a
Mike Baker has voted, and you get your sticker. Right?
I was going to put my sticker and take a picture, but I'm like, no. Once Chelsea Handler put them on her tits, I'm like, we're done here.
Yeah, nobody wanted that. Nobody needed to see that shit.
She put them as pasties. It's a creative move. It gets people to pay attention. So this, I'm sorry, I was joking around about the Federalist, but this, so with where this guy, go back to that article, because what this guy's getting wrong is that, yes, Trump had a lead, but they were counting the in-person votes first, and then they counted the mail-in votes. The mail-in votes were already overwhelmingly slanted towards Democrats.
Because some of these states, and again, some of them with Republican state houses, that was the regulation or the law that they put in place was that you can't count those votes early, the mail-ins, I mean. You can't vote them early. So yeah, people went, part of the problem was people went to bed on Tuesday night thinking, well, look at this, Trump's going to,
right.
And it's like going to bed because you think the game's all locked up.
Exactly.
You wake up in the morning and, you got screwed.
Like that Super Bowl a few years ago when they won it in the last.
Yes.
So when I left the Super Bowl party, I was like, let's get the fuck out of here. This game's over. And they won it. Yeah, they won it in overtime. The thing about all this stuff is that people want the narrative to fit with how they feel it should have gone. So they feel it should have gone to Trump, so someone's trying to steal the election.
Right.
Instead of, no, they're counting mail-in ballots later. There is a weird thing with, like, the Democrats wanting mail-in ballots. It's almost like wanting to mail them in is also sort of a political statement in regards to the handling of the pandemic by the Republican president. Yeah. These are the same people that have, like, their fucking Twitter profile picture with a mask on. Hey, stop.
Yeah,
just stop.
It's my mask of righteousness.
You got a selfie with a mask on. Fuck you. You know what you're doing. That's a weird political statement.
Yeah,
isn't it weird? I don't mean fuck you. I say fuck. No. I'm getting aggressive. I didn't mean it. I'm just being silly. People think I'm serious sometimes. I have to be careful.
No, but it's.
He said fuck people who wear masks.
Oh my God, he's an anti-masker.
Look, anti-masker's a new thing, I think.
Yeah, I got to tell you, I think it's a simple thing. Put on a mask, but you're right. There are people who wear it proudly, like the early days of adopting and driving a Prius. Right?
They're doing it. I've seen people do podcasts with a mask on. Fuck you.
And he doesn't mean that. He just.
I do mean that. For podcasters, I do mean that. Especially when they're doing it by themselves. There's no one in the room. You got a mask on. I've seen that. Or there's someone in other rooms nowhere near you and you're wearing a mask. It's a political statement. Right. It's a thing. You're showing that you are a responsible person. It's a way of flying your flag of virtue. Yeah. I am wearing a mask. I'm not one of those. Like if you see those people that get in fights at Walmart because they don't want to wear, you're infringing on my freedoms. It's always the worst fucking human beings. The people that represent not wearing a mask are never exemplarily, like scholarly, brilliant people who are like, well, the reality is about virus particles and the size of these particles. It's preposterous. It doesn't make any sense. Also, I've been tested, and it's my risk.
You have a very strict testing regime here. You guys probably tested more, frankly, than anybody else.
Dude, I was tested last night, and then I got tested again this morning. So I was tested last night at the governor's mansion.
Ooh,
I met the governor.
Oh.
Hung out with the governor.
Oh, that's good news.
Governor Abbott's a cool guy.
Yeah.
He's like a legitimately nice guy. I really enjoyed his company. I like him a lot. And then I got tested again this morning. So I get tested all the time, constantly. But that's why we wear no masks and we could talk shit.
Yeah.
And when young Jamie fucked off because he decided to go party. He was at a disco.
What?
He was at a disco
They
screaming.
still have a disco?
Screaming. He was raving. I think he was at a rave. And
Actually, a roller derby.
We should actually clarify this because if it was a disco, we need to talk about that more.
no, he went to a bar and he was out on a patio and he got the vid.
Oh.
And so he, but he was, you were barely sick. You were sick for a day. When you came in, he was really convinced that it was some sort of allergy.
When did you? So how long did you have before you got tested?
Well, we tested him.
Yeah, it might have been a
I was
couple
off.
days, but
No,
I
we
was
were
away.
off that week.
Oh, yeah,
remember?
yeah.
So it was quite a while. So there was a week where I was elk hunting. So we were gone. And Jamie probably got it the weekend I left, and didn't feel bad until 3 or 4 days later. And then by the time we came in, it was a good 7 days, right? Something like that.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
I didn't even feel sick when that day. I was like, I
Yeah.
felt sick a couple
when he
days.
tested
temperature?
positive-
No temperature?
I don't think so.
No,
I mean, it may,
no.
it's hard to tell. It was hot as shit here.
I was worried though that we were gonna have to shut. That was true. It was hot as shit. Well, I was worried that we were gonna have to shut the show down, but the doctor informed me that since I never was really close to him, we made him sit in the corner like a dunce. And after we found out that he had the cooties, and we tested him again, he failed the second test. But
did you think about firing him at that point?
no fucking way.
That's
No
it. You're
way.
done.
No way, because
done.
I could have caught it too. Listen,
I was in D.C. We're filming for a Discovery series called What on Earth, right? And these guys, the film crew for this series is usually from England.
and they quarantine people.
Oh my God!
Oh,
Those
yeah.
guys go through the protocols, right?
Yeah, I mean, listen,
Yeah.
I believe, I understand how they would do that for a film or production, but for a podcast, like, it goes on all year. There's no way I can tell people what to do with their life, especially when I go to restaurants and stuff and I wear a mask. I joke around about masks. People are like, Rogan he's an anti-masker. I wear a mask every fucking day. I wear it all the time. But I do think there's something silly about it.
Yeah. Well, again, it makes it's like a lot of things in life, right? It makes you feel like you're doing something. It makes you feel good.
It makes other
right?
people feel
And-
comfortable. That's
right.
why I wear it.
Exactly. I'm the same way. I think like it's a little thing. If other people are happy, do I think it's necessarily going to stop? And I know, but I'm happy to do it because it makes other people comfortable.
I think some of the listen, Mr. Like, we're virologists.
I know.
Some of the virus
doctor.
is stopped by that mask. It has to be. There's a filter. It's not, I mean, some of it can get out. And so if someone gets a smaller dose of the virus, it's probably less detrimental to their health. That's probably the argument for it. Someone told me that being on a plane is actually very safe because of the way they filter the air.
It's true. I've felt ever since I've been flying for a while now. I've been back and forth to London and traveling around out to Los Angeles.
You can go to
and-
London right now?
Yeah.
When did they open that up again?
Well, not right now. Now they shut it down until the 2nd of December again. Right. This is their second hardcore lockdown. Some parts of England were under what they call a tier 3, up like north in Manchester, that area. But so now it's problematic, and
I know Greece was allowing American travelers for a while.
get this, China has banned visitors from England. China,
From England?
Yeah, China said, "Oh my God, no, you guys are."
What about
you guys are
America?
Too infectious. No, that might be a bridge too far for Xi, but he's okay with banning the UK residents. But anyway, to your point, I felt for quite a while now the safest place to be is on a plane. I got on a plane coming from Heathrow to New York City a handful of weeks ago, and there were 6 or 7 other people on this plane. It's a big plane, right? And there was almost nobody on this thing.
Do they allow people to take their mask off while they eat? They do.
Yeah. And
Do you have to take it off, like Governor Newsom style, take it off in between bites and put it back on? That's what he wants you to do?
I saw that. That's fantastic.
He's a gem.
Yeah. He's doing wonders out there in California.
He's a gem of preposterousness.
Yeah. But no, you can actually remove your mask. You can wear it as a one-ear earring dangling from your ear.
It's a new fashion statement.
It is a I saw
See, a lot of people wear them
Biden doing that.
in between meals. They put it on their wrist, like while they're eating. They put it on their wrist and then put it back on their face. That's a new thing.
It is amazing how we've it's become normal, right? I was thinking about that yesterday, walking around the airport, looking around, and quick, and people all, and it used to be, right, that if you saw, this is going to sound wrong, but if you saw someone wearing a mask, it was probably somebody from Japan or Korea or somewhere, right? I mean, it was like that because it's a little more common over there.
Or someone trying to rob somebody.
Well, there's that.
Yeah.
Yeah. What was the last time you walked into a bank wearing a mask, right?
You know what's weird is how many people can recognize you with a mask on. Isn't that weird?
Yeah. So people have actually done that with you? They said,
dude, mask on, hat, sunglasses.
You're ready to jack a car in that situation.
Yeah. Hey, Joe
but there'll
Rogan?
be some fan. The police won't have any clue who it was, but there'll be some fan that go, "That's Joe."
Yeah.
I don't. Again, I'm confused over. I will say there's a class of mask wearers I'm confused over. Those are the ones who are you'll see are in their car by themselves driving with a mask on. And I'll look over.
You shouldn't be allowed to vote.
Yeah, you should be. I mean, if you're driving in your car,
you have no say over anything. If you're in your fucking car with rubber gloves on and a mask, you stop.
Yeah. Or if you're out running or biking with a mask on.
I think some people do that for courteous sake because I have Bridget Fedesi was telling me that she was walking down the street on the other side of the street. She was on one sidewalk, someone's on the other side. She was walking her dog, and someone was screaming at her to put a mask on.
Put a mask on the dog. Yeah. No, I mean I get that if you're running, right? Obviously, if you're running and you're in a
heavy.
But I'm talking about people that are running in areas like around us. We got the foothills, right? And
right.
You go up in the foothills, you can run and not see anybody.
Yeah.
But I've seen people up there, running. And it's not like you're running downtown New York City where you're passing people constantly, and you're like you said, you're breathing heavy. It's just. And or you're on a long 20-mile bike ride because you got your spandex on, and you're going for a big pedal, and you got your mask on. I'm thinking it's probably probably not necessary, and B, it's probably not that healthy.
Well, they have what a training mask is. It's like a oxygen depletion mask that guys would wear.
Pump up your volume.
Super controversial. Some people say it's horseshit. It doesn't do a goddamn thing for you. Some people say it's very good for you, and by being able to work hard with very little oxygen, it expands your cardiovascular potential.
I mean, I think it all comes down to what you were saying. It's a little thing in life to bend your spear over, right? To be like an anti-masker.
They're all assholes.
Yeah, it just doesn't make
sense. Everyone
who's
on a plane who gets kicked off for not wearing a mask, you just go, those guys. They exist. They're fucking annoying. It's not that hard, man. Put a mask on.
Yeah, nobody's taking away your freedoms.
Yeah.
Just put your mask on. I agree, but there is always that element of I'm standing up to
the man,
or odious government control, or
it's ridiculous. But on the other hand, the people that make a big deal of the fact they're wearing a mask are equally annoying.
Yeah, well, there's
not equally.
Yeah, well,
slightly less annoying than the anti-mask people.
Yeah. Look, one thing this whole process has taught me is that I find the most annoying people I think exist out there are really, really self-righteous, progressive white people. Right?
Oh my God.
Yeah, that demographic, right? I mean, the one thing I could say is I can't stand that group, right? And now again, you could say the same thing about the hard, side on the right, right? I mean, there's just both those people, and they probably have more in common than we think, right?
For sure, it's an ideology thing.
Yes,
yeah. It's you want people to know where you stand on something, and you believe that where you stand makes you more virtuous.
Yes, that's a very eloquent way of putting it.
And you want to kick them in the balls, all of them. You just want to run up to them, shut your fucking dirty, stinky mouth. You're annoying. You ruin all these good causes. That's the problem with all these great causes. There's some amazing causes that I support, but they're also supported by twats.
Yeah.
And these guys that are just the most annoying liberals.
Well, that's like the BLM movement, right? I mean, are there legitimate things you could be doing to push forward with police reform that makes sense, right?
Yes.
The training and but you got to fund them, right? You actually got to get them better, less than lethal weaponry, the hiring and the vetting. But the movement, it gets hijacked in part by this group that just wants to feel good about themselves.
Do you see the girl in Brooklyn the other day that spit in the cop's
Yes.
face? She's yelling at him, "You fucking fascist!" Then she spit in his face.
Yeah.
And then he's like, "Thank you. That's assault."
Yeah, exactly.
Arrest her. And she's like, "What are you doing? You can't just spit in someone's face." Not only that, he wasn't even saying anything to you.
No, he's
It's
just standing there. He's standing there, and she's losing her shit.
Young kids like that who've never been held up at gunpoint, who've never been robbed. I don't know if she's ever been robbed. Maybe she has. Maybe she's just really hardcore. she's been robbed, and she's like, I prefer the fucking thieves to the police. But it's just this thing where you're supposed to hate the cops because of George Floyd or because of a number of other incidents that have nothing to do with that guy. It's like you can't hate any group of people because of someone that is not just because they do the same job, but they're not the same individual. They're not the same human. They didn't do that horrendous crime that everybody saw that makes you angry.
Right.
This guy in Milwaukee has no fucking relation to this guy in Florida. They don't know each other. They just happen to both be police officers. It's the same thing with like a firefighter that starts fires because he's crazy. You don't go spitting in other firefighters' face because my fucking dog burnt to death in a fire, you piece of shit. You're like, hey, I fight fires.
Yeah, exactly.
Jesus Christ.
But we don't do. I mean, again, it's this idea that somehow we're.
But it's like all groups. Look, how many doctors have put people under sedation and molested them? A fucking lot, man. A lot. There's a lot of cases.
I didn't know there was an epidemic of that.
Well, it's not an
What's going
epidemic,
on,
but there's
I mean,
enough so that if you Google it, you'll find many, many, many cases where people lost their license to practice, got sued, went to jail. But you don't look at every doctor and go, "You piece of shit, I got molested by a doctor, you fucking asshole." And no one's under more pressure for fear of their life in a civilian society than a cop.
Right.
No one.
Well, that's the thing. We don't understand. Again,
Other than maybe a black guy who gets pulled over by a cop. You can make that argument.
You just said it. Yeah. You're good. You're okay. Fine. You get to. So they got a lot in common, is what you're saying. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They're both scared.
No, nobody ever puts. I mean, if you're a state trooper and you pull somebody over on the highway and you're walking up there, you have no idea what the fuck's about to happen.
Especially if he's got no plates.
Right.
Jesus Christ.
So but again, it's this idea that it's all or nothing, right? And and part of that is just the lack of empathy. Part of it is the way that we're processing information and that fucking social media.
That's a big part of it. That's a big part of it. A big part of it is also this, what we were talking about, with people being self-righteous. They're self-righteous all day long on Twitter, and they're arguing with people about it, and they're finding people that agree with them, and everybody's competing for likes. Social media has ruined discourse, but it's also enhanced it. It's done both.
No, it is. I'm not a Luddite. I'm not saying it's terrible. I'm just saying that there is a downside that we don't seem to be dealing with very well. Look, I mean, right after this happened, right? So once it became clear that there was not going to be a blue wave and that Biden wasn't going to ride in on it and that the House wasn't going to flip a bunch of Republican seats and they weren't going to take the Senate, right away, if you kind of canvassed what was going on in social media, people were like, well, this just cements it then. This is clear that it wasn't just an anomaly in 2016. This just cements that half of America is a bunch of shitheads, right? I mean, that was the general tone from some folks out in social media just saying, well, clearly they're either stupid or they're bad people or they're both because they don't agree with me.
Yeah.
Right. And
exactly.
When the fuck did that happen?
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of things that people are voting for. They're not just voting one guy bad, one guy good. That's not what's going on. There's a lot of economic policies. They're dealing with support for the military. That's a giant factor with a lot of people. Look, for a lot of my friends who are veterans who are either in the military or have been in the military, that is the number one reason why they voted for Trump. And, for Tim Kennedy, that's why he re-enlisted. Yeah. He re-enlisted because he knew that the military was getting more support and that the funding for the military was going to increase substantially and they were going to get to take care of things that were stagnant for a long time. And he came on the podcast and talked about it, how they basically squashed ISIS in under a year. And it was going on forever before that. And they were spreading to Boko Haram and all throughout Africa. And it was getting scary. Yeah. And funding increased substantially, support increased substantially, They got what they needed, and they got the job done. That for a lot of guys, they're not assholes. They just support the military, and they know that there was one candidate that was making a big push to support the military, and another one that was a part of the whole Benghazi bullshit. I mean, that was 2016. They didn't trust her because of that. They didn't trust her because she's a part of the machine. They're the part of the whole machine that got them into Iraq in the first place under false pretenses.
Yeah, and or people voted for law and order, right?
Yes.
And after the sort of the summer of what they were witnessing, they thought,
Right.
you know what? I think probably looking at that and then saying I'm for defunding the police or whatever the term they use sometimes,
Right.
reimagining policing as a community effort.
It doesn't mean you're racist. And then on top of that, what does Biden really support? Like, what is he standing for? Like, tell me what the policies are. Does anybody know? Is there anything like real clear and present that's at the forefront where it makes sense? Like, this is how he's going to clean this up. This is how he's going to clean that up. This is where we're doing wrong, and this is how he's going to fix it. There wasn't a discussion of that. It was just Trump is bad. What is Trump doing? Trump is ruining everything.
I'm going to set up a commission. That's what I mean. His answer for a couple of things are like with the pandemic. Well, what are you going to do? Oh, I'm going to get a commission of the leading scientists, and we're going to look at how do we deliver these things on time, and how do we think? Well, hold on a second, pal. Look, I mean, I don't doubt that he's a good person. I'm sure he is a good person, but you can't tell me that suddenly you're magically going to develop this level of efficiency that wasn't displayed in the previous 8 years of the Obama administration or prior to that when you were as a senator for all this time. Admittedly, working within a system that sometimes is hard to move. But I think, his answer to that commission, his answer to court packing, are you in favor of court packing? He wouldn't answer that question.
Yeah.
So he says, I'm going to form a commission to look at it because I think the Supreme Court's out of whack. What the fuck does that mean?
Well, not only that, he said the people don't deserve to know.
Yeah.
You hear that part?
That-
He says some wacky shit, and I'll tell you one thing. As a comic, God, I hope comedy clubs open up to full capacity soon because there is so much gold in that man. There's gold in Trump, but the gold in Trump was almost hard to mine because like so many people were so polarized by him. It's like, and the jokes already wrote themselves. It's like people are like, Jesus Christ, stop talking about Trump. Like enough already. Like I really didn't have much Trump material. I had Trump material on the way to the White House. Like I had a whole bit about him in 2016.
But I may be completely wrong about this, but also he was such a parody of himself, right?
Yes.
In a sense that it's almost hard to go anywhere with it.
He's
right?
so ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's hard to write stuff that's more ridiculous because that's one of the things you do with comedy is you make things more ridiculous than they actually are, but with a grain of truth to it.
Yeah.
When you're mocking a person.
Well, I'm curious as to where Corn Pop's going to end up in all of this.
He's going to be great. Corn Pop is coming back.
Yeah.
Corn Pop's going to say, I'm here to tell you that story's true. Joe
be the-
Biden put me in my place, and I was ready to fight him. And he does have hairy legs.
He does have, the hairy legs thing confused me too.
What confused me was who allowed him to talk in front of all those children that are not paying attention at all. Like that is, like some people are just real bad at telling stories.
Yeah.
And kids will be the first to let you know that because they don't give a fuck. Those kids were just having a good time.
Yeah.
They were behind him just chatting away about all sorts of non-related shit.
I don't know about your kids, but if I start telling the story and my kids aren't into it, or they'll walk off.
Check
they just
out
don't get. They just go
like
on.
that.
They won't even stick
Boring.
around. They won't even stick around.
Well, I encourage mockery in my house.
Yeah,
Like if
likewise.
something's funny, like in my house, it takes the cake. And sometimes I get yelled at for laughing at things that I think are funny, but you're not supposed to think are funny. Or you're not supposed, like, especially my 12-year-old will say some hilarious shit, and I'll just like, I'm like, stop. You're not supposed to. That is not supposed to be funny. I'm like, that's fucking funny.
Yeah. No, I mean,
It's funny.
my boys say shit that's inappropriate all the time, and you have to stop and laugh about it because you think, it's pretty sophisticated
Yes.
for a 9-year-old.
My youngest goes for the joke.
Yeah.
She's the most active. Like she'll when I have friends over, she like turns it on. She'll start performing. My friend Tom Segura was like, "Damn, she's got a lot of comic in her." I'm like, yeah. Well, she knows what works.
Right.
She's like in my house. That's currency.
You got to do that. I think it helps in so many ways, right? If if you stifle their humor, or you don't let them understand the complexity of humor or how it can be layered, and part of that is sort of the it's like the 9-year-old will sit with his older brothers and they'll plow through a couple episodes of South Park, and you know, I'm thinking, okay, which I've caught the 9-year-old watching Borat, the second Borat movie.
No.
Right? Yeah. I'm thinking like, all right, I'm sorry, I didn't authorize this,
That's
but you know,
awesome.
what are you going to do?
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
And the one area that we have been trying to control is the language, right? And that's a problem for both my fabulous wife and I. We'll tend to swear around the kids.
Get a little colorful.
Yeah. And so, like, I don't have a problem, you know, and if one of them's acting like a douche, then I'll say, hey, look, stop acting like an asshole, or don't be a douchebag, or whatever. And they pick that up, right?
Right.
I guess I should have known that. And then they'll take it to school with them.
I feel like it's better if they hear it in the house.
Yeah.
I really do. It's like, what are you going to hear it outside and be confused by it? Like, it's
Right.
language that adults use. I tell my kids, just don't use that language when you go over people's houses. Don't use that language around teachers. Don't use that language around other adults. It's a weird thing because they also know that I'm a comedian and I swear for a living. Yeah. And sometimes my wife listens to my podcast and she'll have it on in the car. And so, like, you get in the car and Bluetooth is playing, you start the car, and I was like, what the fuck is that guy thinking? And she's like, oh my God, Daddy has the worst potty mouth. One thing I do encourage mockery of me. I encourage, like, if they make fun of me, that's their way to get back.
Yeah.
Like, they can make fun of me, and I'll start laughing. And I think, because, like, it's not fair that you live with these people that are older than you that get to tell you what to do. You never get to tell them what to do.
Right.
Kids get resentful of that. So the one way they can get back at me is mocking me.
Yeah, and I feel exactly the same way as long as they do it in a clever way, right?
Yeah.
It's got to be.
Yeah.
There's got to be some humor to it, and it's got to be smart, right? About
Right.
how they do it.
Well,
And-
I'll
yeah,
critique their jokes. I'm like, that joke sucked. That's not good.
Yeah,
But sometimes they get you with some good ones. They get you with some zingers.
yeah. I got my 13-year-old, the boy Scooter he's starting to challenge me, right? Like he'll actually start, like, you know, we'll get into a contest here. We'll start, you know, he'll come up and he'll start punching me.
Uh-oh.
And you know, and I'll let it go, but then I can kind of tell, you see it in their eyes, right? They're like, yeah, I'm getting one up here, and
Then you have to take their
then
soul.
you got to take them down, right? And you think, okay, but then I'm thinking, I got maybe, like, I don't know, not that many years left before he's going to be
Time to start lifting.
Yeah, well, you know, and who doesn't? But he will
one day.
Yeah, he will one day. But right now, I can see that he's starting to do that. He's starting to challenge a little bit.
It's natural.
Yeah, it is natural.
Roy
It is
Jones
natural.
Jr. talked about that on his podcast with his dad, that a lion has to leave the den.
Yeah.
You know, when
Yeah.
a young lion is coming up, the old lion's like, hey, son, it's time for you to get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, or the old one just wanders off, right, and dies.
Winds up with a
Yeah.
broken jaw and can't
Yeah.
feed himself.
I told my boys, just wheel me out to the back, and then go back up on the top deck and take turns shooting at me. And,
Whoa.
you know, yeah, just take me out at the point where I'm losing it. Just do that. Just end it.
I think there's a more humane way to handle it.
It probably is.
You could do that yourself, too. You don't have to put it in your kids, so they have
what
to
you say.
think about that shit for the rest of their life.
Yeah.
How we
So parenting,
shot
they didn't seem concerned about the idea, though. They in fact, they almost seemed on board with
Well,
it.
you might have uncorrectable errors that you've already committed in child rearing.
There's that possibility.
Hey, what is the shit that I'm hearing that Jamie was bringing up today? That Trump might fire the head of the CIA and the NSA. That he's thinking about doing that before he leaves.
Yeah, that would be
But wouldn't Biden just rehire him?
I would like to think so. It would be a complete dick move if he does, because he's not going to find a better director than Gina Haspel over at the agency. She's top notch, and I
hear nothing but good things.
She's outstanding, and she's got. And this is what I worry about here when we talk about, like, the administration changeover, right? Because maybe she would stay on during the Biden administration for a period of time. I mean, we've seen that in the past in other circumstances, but usually they would end up looking and saying, we're going to replace the directors, we're going to do these things. And, you know, there's been a little bit of talk in Washington, you know, about, you know, who may be in what position. Gina Haspel, one of the things that makes her so good is that she grew up in the outfit, right? And so she's got that deep understanding of operations and what it takes, right? What's required and what, you know.
Is she like the girl from Homeland? But less crazy?
Less crazy. Yeah. No, she's not crazy at all. But I mean, no, she's just top notch. There's no chinks in the armor or whatever you say.
So why would anyone? Are you allowed to say that anymore?
I just realized that. I don't think so.
I think you can still say it, but people get real scared.
Okay.
They say it and they go, "Oh Jesus."
Yeah, I just
what
like I just did. But so Gina, it would be great if they replace her. If they were to replace her with someone who is from outside, right? And we've had some good outside directors. Leon Panetta was a good example, right? That guy,
explain to people and help me along the lines as well. If someone were to become an outside director of the CIA, say you're a person who works in, whatever. What industry would they draw from?
Oh God, sometimes the names get floated, or like their biggest thing is they've existed in national security circles. Like they were in a think tank for a long time. They were writing policy papers, and maybe they were on a national security staff somewhere. And what the agency thrives under, as far as leadership goes, usually is somebody who really understands, because they've done it.
Because they've been inside.
They've been inside, and they understand what it's all about. They know it's just there's a lot of moving parts in there.
But so you wouldn't take from business. You wouldn't get someone who runs businesses. It would have to be someone with some sort of national security background.
Yeah. I mean, you would hope. Right?
But even still, like they don't really cross pollinate. Right? Like someone from the FBI wouldn't become the head of the CIA, would they?
A fantastic guy. One of the greatest people I've ever known. William Webster was both the director of the FBI and the director of the agency during his career. And he was not inside the agency, but he was an outstanding director. I think you could argue, is an anomaly. There are a couple others, but I guess my point being is it would be a dick move to let her go because she's outstanding.
But do they usually do that, where they when someone gets in, they clean house and then they put their own people in positions?
I don't know, statistically, I don't know what the percentage is, but sometimes not. I mean, Gates is a good example of that. Bob Gates kind of transcended
because I always look at agencies, obviously I'm on the outside deeply, but if I look at agencies as being like something that's completely separate from what the president is, and that they advise the president and fill in the president in on all the shit that's going on in the world that you don't know about if you're a civilian.
Right.
But you don't directly, you're not a part of this administration.
No, I mean,
right?
The director sometimes can be, and that's why I say it changes sometimes. You get people like that may come in and have more of a political bent, which I think is always wrong. Ideally, the agency, NSA, other members of the intel community should always be ideally apolitical. Now, everybody's human, right? They've got their own beliefs, et cetera, obviously, but I think it works best when these, and we've seen from other countries overseas, you see this shit, right? You see when you get a change in government and they just wholesale, clean out the intelligence organization or the police organization, and they bring in all their people, and it's a nightmare. We never want that. Yeah, you never want that shit here.
Because then there's all these growing pains, and you got to figure out what the job is, and you have a bunch of people that aren't accustomed to the way you normally do business, and
then you got people beholden to that power structure for their job, and you want that arm's length. You want them to be able to give objective opinions, right? That's what's critical here. So you have to be able to say, here's the reporting. Here's an objective analysis assessment of what this means. Here are your options, and you have to have confidence that they're doing that in an apolitical, or as much as possible, being realistic, an apolitical manner. And I mean, that's what's the whole kerfuffle. Can we say? Yeah, you can say
kerfuffle's fine.
Kerfuffle's fine. And so the whole kerfuffle over the politicization of the FBI, for instance, with Comey and others, that makes people deeply uncomfortable, right? So. But these positions, that very top position, typically is politically appointed.
Did you see where Ted Cruz was grilling Comey about evidence that had been changed?
Yeah.
What did you think of that?
I sometimes have a hard time watching Ted Cruz, although I give him credit. He's a very, very smart guy. I think he knows his shit.
I like his beard.
Yeah, beard is top notch.
He looks a lot better with the beard.
He came out of the pandemic with that, right? I mean,
I trust him more now for some strange reason. Seems like more of a man.
He looks tougher. I was about to say he looks a little tougher, but Comey, I think Comey has the same problem in the sense that, like over on the CIA side that John Brennan had. I think they got too deep into the game in terms of politics and the association. And at that point, one side or the other, depending on where you are on the fence, is going to find it that offensive or questionable or maybe lacking in credibility.
So when you say too deep in politics, meaning they did things that weren't necessarily the correct things to do, but they were very good for them politically?
Yeah, I think so. Or liked the game, or just developed a too close a tie. I mean, if I were, one of the if I were the president, I would not want to be a buddy with the head of the agency or a buddy with the head of NSA or the Bureau.
But wasn't that
keep
the thing
them at
that
arm's
Trump
length.
demanded from Comey? He was like, I need you to be loyal.
Yeah,
And Comey was like, excuse me?
Yeah. Well, I think politically, I think he's on the opposite side of the fence there. I mean, I think if somebody who was more politically aligned with Comey had said that, he would have gone, well, of course I am. I mean, not loyal, but just saying, sir, you can always count on my loyalty. I wouldn't have been an issue. It wouldn't have leaked out. It wouldn't have been a story. But coming back around, I think if the smartest thing they could do, if assuming that Vice President Biden becomes President-elect Biden, if the numbers continue to go the way they are, with the agency, he should definitely keep Gina Haspel in that job. That would be a smart move on his part.
What's the argument against it? Like, what is he saying? Do you know what he's saying, Jamie? Is there something like?
No, it just was like a rumor he's going to get rid of everyone, even if
Why would you do that?
even is what it was.
Oh,
like
even upon re-election.
I just found it was being talked about the 26th of October is when this first hit. And then I
mean,
saw it
people
again today.
generally at that level, don't quote me, but generally they submit their resignations. If Trump were to have won or were to win, then they would still submit their resignations, and he would have the opportunity to either offer them that position again or find someone new. When there's a change in administration, that's what you do. You hand in your resignation. I mean, my daughter works in D.C., and she's in a political position, so she's been out there, quietly looking in the event that the administration changes, because her assumption is she will not have a job after January, middle of January. So it's standard procedure out there. But when you find a real quality person who can provide you with extremely good advice and insight, you should probably hold on to that person.
Obviously, you're a little biased.
I'm biased, yeah, but I think it goes with that, regardless of who that person is, right? Or like I said, with Leon Panetta, he was on Clinton's chief of staff, right? I mean, Bill Clinton's. So we're not necessarily politically aligned, but he was a terrific director. So I would say the same thing about anybody who exhibits excellent leadership.
Do you think any politician's going to do this thing again?
The hand. This, whatever that is. I'm not sure what that is. Yeah.
How about this thing? Where he's jerking off
I was
ghosts.
gonna
Have you seen that online?
I saw that online. That was
It
fantastic.
looks like Trump
yeah.
is jerking off ghosts.
Yeah. Oh, God. Yeah.
Trump's out here jerking off
Or
ghosts.
the dance.
Yeah.
That dance thing. I just don't know
the
what
feet
that
moving, not at all. The hands moving like dicks.
Yeah.
Like he's got a dick in each hand.
I'm going to miss that about
come
him.
on.
Here he comes. Look at this.
I mean, when you really stop and think about it, that is one of the worst ways you could ever. I mean, he's literally doing a dick in each hand move. That's a dick in each hand move. Look, dick in each hand, dick in each hand. Stroke him. Hey,
Well done,
I'll
you
take
two.
you, and I'll take you. I'll jerk you off and you
Yeah.
off. Look at that.
We're not going to get that. We're not going to get this again.
No.
No.
No, I mean, he's, like I said, he's almost too much for, look at that, in the mouth. Look at that. He's almost too much for comedy.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, he's almost too ridiculous. Everything about him, the hair, but the fact that he beat COVID in 4 days, it really killed that goddamn narrative that this is something that's going to kill us all.
Yeah, that's an interesting point about this. What the narrative's going to be, right? The science isn't going to change come January 21st or whenever when we inaugurate the new president, right? If it happens to be Biden, the science won't change between now and then, right? They'll still be working on vaccines to get those out for delivery, but I guarantee you that tone's going to change, right?
Yeah,
The tone
Biden
of coverage,
wins? Yes.
the tone of coverage.
Businesses are going to open up.
Yeah.
The economy's going to shift.
Yeah.
And it's not going to happen until after January. They're going to wait until Biden actually gets in office. They're not going to do it when he's the president-elect. They're going to wait wait, open it back up. And they're
Yeah.
going to hope they did enough time where all these people are still going to vote Democrat. And unfortunately, I think a lot of them are going to forget like how ridiculous some of these governors have been. They've killed people's businesses. They've stopped people from working. They've taken away people's ability to make their own choices about what to do. And that, I mean, they're fighting that in California. And Newsom just lost a case where, you know,
That's right.
They said that he overextended his powers, and they're forbidding him to do that from now. And then they're going to review it. And he's basically changing legislation.
Well, and I think that's what people should watch also is, look, these two, I can't emphasize this enough. These unless Perdue gets that 50% plus one vote and outright wins that Senate seat in Georgia, you've got these two Senate seats, right? And this is the balance of the U.S. Senate. This is why this is important. This is actually more important now than us, the focus that the world's got on Biden-Trump, right? Now, I think that train's left the station probably. But regardless, that Senate control is critically important in terms of, again, a sort of a balance of power arrangement, keeping government in check. And so, the Democrats are, they are going to pump a shit ton of cash into those races. If two of them, even if there's just one, well, no, if there's one, then forget about it because they've lost the majority possibility. But if both of those go to runoff in January, I think that may, and Biden is the president-elect, and it's decided, and they have the concession speech from Trump, and so we go through this period of mid-December through January. Then I think you will see some change. I don't think they'll wait until after Biden is officially president in terms of the coverage, because they're going to want to impact those elections in Georgia, right? You're going to want to show, oh my God, look, we're really doing this, and it's things are turning around now. And the media will be completely complicit in that. Obviously,
most of the media is left wing. It's just weird. And then you got that. I think what's going to happen is Trump's going to form his own media organization. That's what I think. I think he's going to have something either online or he's going to have something on a network. But like, what is that? OAN?
OAN, yeah. That's sort of the. What is it? So what do we got? We got OAN and we got Newsmax.
They make Fox look like CNBC.
Yeah.
Or MSNBC.
You see how a lot of conservatives have turned on Fox like a fucking heartbeat, right?
I know, crazy, right?
Yeah.
They turned on Fox when they called Arizona.
Yeah. But they've been doing it. They've been, there's been some dissatisfaction, I think, within the right over Fox's direction, right?
What's wrong with the direction?
Well, I think they felt like it was getting too liberal, right? I know that was the thing.
Well, Chris Wallace, right?
Yeah, Chris Wallace.
He's been questioning Trump. How dare he?
Yeah, but they got, what do they got? They got the triumvirate of Carlson, Ingram, and Hannity, right? So they're happy with those, I think, still. But I think they question everything else they hear. And certainly after they called Arizona now, there's a lot of pissed off people who will go to OAN or whatever the other one, Newsmax, as a refuge. But a media company for Trump, that might make more sense. I assumed that if he's out after this term, that he would just get some huge offer from a network for another show.
He will get that. I think he will probably start his own thing. And I think he will also start running for re-election. And he's going to try to run again in 2024.
No way. No.
That's what he's going to do.
I will place a bet on that one.
How many you want to bet?
That Trump will not run for re-election
in 2024. He's going to run and he's going to win in 2024. I will bet you right now. Give me some odds.
$1,000.
All right. What kind of odds I get?
I was going to give you even odds.
Straight up?
It's 2020.
I'll bet you
crazy things have happened. Okay.
Does he have to win or does he have to run?
Well, you did say run and win.
I did, but I got crazy.
Yeah,
I want odds.
Okay, run. Okay,
I want
I'll go
odds for win.
For win. Okay, yeah.
Okay, odds.
You give me the odds
for win.
Yeah, I'll go even for running.
Okay, even for running. You got to bet $1,000.
$1,000, and then odds for winning.
Okay. I need like 5 to 1.
He's the current favorite for the 2024 nominee.
Yeah, there you go, bro.
Yeah.
What'd I tell you?
Yeah.
I'm not talking shit. John Kasich has a good chance. Mark Cuban.
Well, they're all plus
wait a minute.
1,000.
Wait, I thought Mark Cuban is he a Republican? Because he was
as much as President Trump is, I suppose, in the day.
But I thought he was supporting Biden. He's been supporting Biden. And he's been saying that Biden is good for business.
I think he's been staking out sort of that independent kind of position. He'll probably swing a little right as if he's serious about running. Now that if Biden wins, I think, and he'll want to kind of veer his way back towards the right.
We're so broken in terms of this two-party nonsense.
yeah.
It's so broken.
But the libertarians, that's no place to land. I mean, I agree with a lot of the sort of the concepts, but it's not going to. It's never going to be a successful third party that challenges.
It could if someone like Trump became a libertarian, right?
This is what he said back in 2017.
What did he say? Says if he runs for president, he probably run as a Republican. Probably said. Probably. I don't like that word. Probably. Fuck does that mean, bro? Who knows? Maybe he'll become more compassionate if he licks his finger and feels the wind blowing in that direction.
Yeah, yeah.
You know?
Okay, well, we got that bet out of the way, so that's good.
Did we?
Well, 2024. Let me get this right. That's 4 years from now.
Yeah, $1,000 for if he runs, I win $1,000, and if he wins, I win 5,000. So if he runs, I already have 1,000 that I'll stake against you for winning.
Okay.
And then I just get a free shot at winning $5,000. I like it.
Yeah, yeah.
I like it.
I'm pretty strong on this one. I just don't see that happening.
I got a different
I'm pretty
site
strong
with
on it
different
too,
odds.
bro.
Yeah.
Different odds for the overall
this.
winner of the next election. That's Kamala Harris as the leader with.
Well, look at
Biden
Mike
down
Pence
here.
though. Mike Pence is 8-1.
Yeah, Trump isn't even on the list.
Hold
Honestly,
on, Biden is
Oh, there he is down
12-1.
there.
Wow, AOC is 25-1. Scroll down.
Yeah, better odds than Trump.
Damn, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Cuomo 25-1.
That's not
Elizabeth Warren 28-1 This is horse shit.
I mean, it's very early. This is
Bro,
just
Trump
one
is
site.
33-1.
Oh my God! Look, but the problem I got with this is, look, we got 330 some odd million people, and we keep rehashing the same
Yeah, we
freaking
need
list.
You know why?
right?
When you go to the movies, okay, I want to see Daniel Day-Lewis, okay? I want to see Matt Damon. I want to see people I know. I want to see some fucking nobody playing Thor.
Yeah.
Okay?
no,
I
know.
want the Thor
Yeah,
guy.
you want somebody you recognize.
Yes,
I get it.
that's what it is. I mean, they're playing a role. The role is the leader of the country.
Yeah.
You know, I know who that Pence guy is. He was the VP. Yeah. He's actually a very good speaker, even though he seems a bit loony.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would like to get him alone. I'd like to get him alone
That
and
doesn't sound
spend
right.
some time with him, see what he's like, get him drunk. He probably doesn't drink at all.
That's a good question. Trump does not, famously. No. But, you know what? I don't know. I think it would be nice to see. I've always thought it'd be great to see somebody like a Condoleezza Rice, come out of retirement from politics and
Does
say,
she have any desire to do that? Has she ever
I think
expressed
none.
it?
I think none.
God, she was inside. She's probably like, I'm done.
Yeah, yeah. I just think she's having too much fun out in the commercial world, and
sure.
So who knows? She'll end up as commissioner of the NFL or something. But I think that's the job she wants. But
does she really?
Yeah,
she's a
she's
big
talked
NFL
about it
fan?
before. Yeah.
Oh, no
yeah,
kidding. That's
yeah.
interesting.
So, but I think it would just be nice to see other well-qualified people kind of rise to the challenge.
You know what's interesting? Andrew Yang apparently wants to do something with MMA. He wants to create new legislation for MMA and have people. I talked about it with Luke Thomas the other day. He wants people in MMA to fall under the Ali Act. And the Ali Act is that a promoter can't also be the belt distributor.
Okay.
So the people that are the sanctioning bodies, like the WBC in boxing, can also be a promoter.
Right.
The UFC is obviously a promoter, and they also are the sanctioning body.
Right.
They're the same thing. And the Ali Act forbids that for boxing. And he wants the Ali Act to apply to MMA, which is interesting.
It's a strange thing for him to pick up and run with.
I think he's a big fan.
Okay. All right.
I think he doesn't like it, and I think he's become very popular inside MMA circles. He has some really good suggestions about cops too. He said I really wholeheartedly agree with this. He said he thinks every cop should be at least a purple belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and I wholeheartedly agree with that. I think he's very wise.
Yeah.
Like Andrew Yang is wise. He says smart things. I liked talking to him, but I like hearing him talk. And I would wholeheartedly support him as president too. I think he's a wise person. I know a lot of people don't like his idea of universal basic income, but I think this pandemic showed that there's a real need to have at least a backup plan if people can't work.
In terms of a crisis, yeah. In
They
times
didn't
of
do
a crisis,
anything.
yeah. In times of a pandemic, and this will not be our last pandemic.
No.
Hopefully we learn some lessons from it, and I think we have.
Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Gun to your head.
Yeah.
Did this come from a wet market or did it come from a level 4 virus lab?
I think the answer is a little more complicated. I think it probably popped up in a wet market. I think they were probably looking at it inside the lab, and I think their containment procedures and their protocols were lacking, and I think it got away from them. And I think that's what the Chinese regime is busy still to this day trying to hide.
Yeah.
So I think that, and look, there's documentation of concern about this particular lab and the level of security around it, and concern over the money that was still being given to that lab to keep it going, and despite the fact that the protocols were lacking. So,
and weren't they cited for safety violations as
Yes.
recently as 2018?
Yeah. I mean, going back a decade or so, there were issues.
Here's what I found fascinating about this situation. When the virus got out and when the pandemic started, one thing that everyone was certain of was where the virus originated, and that if you said that it came from the lab, you were some wacky conspiracy theorist.
Right.
There's a fucking level 4 biological hazard lab or whatever it is.
With a history of problems.
Right there.
Yeah. I know.
In that city.
Yeah.
But if you suggest, I mean, there's so many mysteries about this virus, right?
Right.
But if you suggested that it came perhaps from this lab, you are some sort of a conspiracy
You're
theorist.
xenophobic too. Don't
Yes,
forget that.
xenophobic.
Yeah.
And by the way, I've been accused of that because of that. And having a fucking biologist on the show explain why, Brett Weinstein, explain why he believed it came from the lab. Explain why, because if you examine the virus, there's so many things that point to the fact this virus has been manipulated, that this virus is far too contagious, that it spreads far too quickly. It's gone through this whole evolutionary process that seems to have happened way too quickly for it not to have been manipulated. He explained this in scientific terms without saying ever that he believes it absolutely came from the lab.
Yeah.
He's like, all indications point to the possibility that this had come from the lab. And I've read all these things where, like, Joe Rogan's show is spreading dangerous conspiracy theories about the virus. Like, what?
Because we should believe everything that the Xi regime says.
Why is there so many questions about so many things, but you can't question that?
Yeah.
We're not talking about a place that doesn't have a level 4 lab. We're talking a place that does. Well, it's not like they study coronaviruses. Oh, yes, they do. Well, it can't come from there. It can't. Impossible.
Yeah.
How is it impossible?
By the way, this cough, I've been tested negative.
Are you COVID?
No, I just been tested. You know that 30 minutes ago, I was negative.
Yeah, everybody gets scared if you sneeze.
I know.
People look at you like there's something wrong with
I
you.
read something where it says sneezing in your mask is the new shit in your pants. But yeah, look, I think there's every likelihood that this was picked up or identified in the wet market or through sort of, okay, this is a naturally occurring. I mean, we know that this has happened before, so that's not hard to imagine. But the likelihood that then made its way into the lab as they were looking at it, manipulating it, I do believe there was fuckery going on in terms of just trying to understand what it was or trying to see where it was going to go.
They studied coronaviruses from bats in that lab.
Exactly. And so then again, you've got a history of problems and protocols with this particular lab.
Yeah.
Where's the fucking mystery in terms of at least assuming that this is a possibility, right?
I think the real wacky conspiracy theory is that they did it on purpose, and I don't subscribe to that.
Right.
I think that seems highly illogical that they would subject their own people to that, and then they would shut down essentially most of the world. That doesn't benefit anybody. It doesn't seem like that would. I don't see a logical reason why anybody would release that on purpose. But I just don't. It's the same kind of people that wear their fucking masks in their Twitter profile pictures are the ones that hate anybody discussing the possibility that virus escaped from a lab. Yeah. I just don't understand the argument.
Well, it was the same again. You had all this angst over the temporary halt on travel between China and the U.S. Right?
Yeah.
And again, that's if you have this thing, crisis management planning, right? So every company, every corporation will have a set of protocols, and they go through this and they say, okay, we got to look at all the potential threats and risks facing our company, and then we have to create a crisis management plan in case of this happens, that happens, whatever. Like you said, have a backup plan or have a scenario that you can go to, and then you exercise that, right? And so it's not hard to imagine that if you have a pandemic playbook that says, okay, these are the various scenarios, we've identified now that this virus has come from over here, that we're going to temporarily halt travel from that location where we've identified this is the origination of that virus. What the hell? How is that tough? But yet in this environment, because it's immediately politically charged. Right?
Well, it is immediately politically charged, but then the ball shifts, the goalpost shift, everything shifts, because at first it was a xenophobic move. It was horrific and racist for him to shut down travel to China. Then it became he should have shut down travel earlier. He knew about it all the way back in January. Why did they take so long to respond? No one knew what it was.
The conspiracy theories that they knew about it in
but it's
2019.
It's not fair when they take advantage of something that clearly no one was prepared for and blame it all on him. Now, if you want to criticize him for saying it's like the flu, it's going to go away, it's going to be magic, it's going to disappear, it's going to for sure, it's going to go away. Yeah, I think you're allowed to criticize him on that. That's a preposterous way of discussing it. It's stupid. And to say it's going to be like magic, no, it's not. And then when he got it himself, I think that was a real wake-up call.
I think you're right about that. I think you could see a change in tone, and I think he became a little more, if that's possible for him, empathetic. But look, the Dems...
For a couple of days.
For a couple of days, yeah. I don't want to make more of it.
And then he became like a fucking Superman. Yeah. Maybe I'm immune. I don't know.
I'm completely immune. My blood is going to be used to solve the problem.
Jamie's got something?
I thought of a random question that maybe insight from him would be into, like, I've seen a lot of stuff online about a Melania body double that, like, one version of her doesn't even like to hold his hand, but this other version will hug and kiss him.
She was super affectionate with him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't even, like,
could you imagine?
Listen.
Do they do that?
Bro, they can make that fucking guy look like a goblin, and that one that Post Malone told us about. Remember that guy?
Yeah,
Necrogoblicon? Yeah. I mean, that guy has a podcast where he wears his goblin outfit and he interviews people. You're telling me they can't make someone look like Melania Trump? Like, people saying, that's Melania, you're being an idiot. Are you sure? She's wearing sunglasses. She's obviously a lady with a lovely figure who's wearing sunglasses. Her face seems similar to Melania's, but not exact.
So what are you saying? You're in the camp of the body double?
All in on the body double. Listen, this is what I think.
Yes.
Rick Baker, who has been on the podcast before,
Sure.
created The American Werewolf in London. You're talking about in the 80s, he got a guy to look like he was turning into a fucking werewolf.
Yeah.
You're telling me you can't recreate Melania's facial structure in a doll? Of course they can.
Yeah.
Not a doll. I mean, a mask.
A doll. Yeah,
With,
there you go.
There's
a revenue stream there.
Especially with the big revenue stream. Especially with the goggles.
The glasses. The goggles.
They're huge. Those glasses are more than glasses. They're basically welding goggles. Yeah. She's got fashion welding goggles on, and
it could be smart glass.
But she's behaving in a way that you never see Melania behaving. They're like newlyweds. She's kissing him. She's all lovey-dovey, and everybody's cheering.
Like, I will say this, my
It's so funny that it's such a fucking conspiracy. Go to the video of the Melania body double being affectionate with Trump, because that's the weirdest to me. I'm all in on the body double, by the way. All in.
My wife has worked with Melania in the past on some overseas concerns and trips, and she's got nothing but excellent things to say about Melania in terms of, she says she's a very private person, right? She doesn't really like sort of the press concerns of the job of First Lady. Her staff, my wife says, absolutely adores her, loves her, because she is a kind individual, a decent person. So I've heard nothing but good things about her. I will admit I've never heard this body double story before. I don't know where to go with that. It's interesting. I know. It's just another. It's another. One more thing I got to investigate. Oh, here we go.
Here it is. Look at this body double. What do you think? Look at, she's kissing him. She's all huggy. I like it why they did. That doesn't look like her. I'm sorry, it doesn't look like her. Also, I don't like how they did it in front of the fucking teleprompter. What kind of shit camera work is this? I think they took a beautiful lady with a lovely figure and they put a Melania mask on her. That's what I think. Look at that.
Look at this. It's like this Zapruder film, right? Holy shit. Now we got people investigating this. This
And
is
now, look how different she looks there.
Look at this.
It's a different person.
Like, oh, it's a
Bro,
different person.
different nose. Everything. The other one looks like a rubber nose. Go back up to the top again. That's a
rougher
rubber nose.
nose.
That's a fake nose. It looks like a
Yeah.
one of them Groucho
You said
marks.
it could be Mike Pence underneath that mask.
I don't think. That's not what I'm saying.
Yeah, okay.
That's not what I'm saying.
All right, just asking. Yeah.
Look what Rick Baker can do.
Yeah.
Yes. See, that's what I'm saying. Rick Baker. Come on. You tell me Rick Baker, look at he did with the werewolf. You tell me who couldn't turn Melania Trump into that?
Yeah.
Come on. Of course.
We
you
had
could.
Hollywood's worked with the agency, with the CIA in the past on working with our disguise unit.
I'm sure you have.
Yeah, and I will say it's incredible.
Incredible.
What can be done.
Yeah.
Right? Because you think about it, sometimes a guy like me may not blend everywhere in the world, and so the ability to operate on the streets or out in the open. Yeah, so we've got a shit hot disguise unit.
Well, don't you remember Team America World Police?
Fuck yeah.
Well, they gave him the ultimate disguise when he was out there talking to the terrorists. It was.
Can we get that up?
But yeah, by the way, I'm not serious about the Melania double.
Yeah,
I
no.
don't really think it's Melania's double. Look at that. How fucking bad it was. He's got the Trump thing with the tan around the eyes, though. Look, he's got the Trump thing with the tan around the eyes.
Yeah. Oh my God, that movie was fantastic. You
Oh,
remember
my
that
God.
scene with Kim Il Sung?
Yes.
Hans Bricks. Hans, you're busting my balls here.
It's one of the greatest movies of all time.
Yeah.
You know another great movie that people forgot about? The South Park movie.
Yes.
Where Satan and Saddam Hussein are gay lovers.
God, that was so good.
Jesus Christ. And they had dicks. They could show dicks because it was a cartoon dick, so you could have the dick flopping around.
Yeah, the voice work on that was
Amazing.
brilliant. Yeah. No, it was
Amazing.
fantastic.
Satan is gay and he
Yeah.
fucks Saddam Hussein.
There you go,
Like,
yeah.
Come on, man. Dude.
Saddam's
Kings.
voice was brilliant.
Yeah. And Saddam's head moves like a Canadian's.
Yeah.
Where it pops off.
Terrence and
half.
Phillip. Hey,
Exactly.
Terrence. Yeah. It's a great show. I recommend that show to everybody I know because I honestly think it's the best piece of television work ever done.
Ever done.
Yeah.
They're the greatest of all time. They're the greatest comedy producers of all time. But the movie, South Park, the South Park movie is so underrated because it's almost like their body of work is so extensive.
Yeah.
They have so many good episodes and so much good stuff that people forgot about a lot of it.
21 years ago.
Whoa! Dude, when I first moved to California, okay, it was maybe a year after I was here. It's not?
That feels like when the show started.
No. The show. This is what I was about to say. When I first moved to California in '94, I was living in North Hollywood for about a year, and then I moved to Encino. So when I was in Encino, it was somewhere around 95-ish, and someone gave me a VHS copy of their first production. And it wasn't even South Park then. It was like, I think maybe it was South Park, but it was all the characters, and it was all about what would Brian Boitano do.
Yeah.
Brian Boitano, the skater.
Great song.
I think it was about Christmas.
Yeah, it's called
Yeah,
The Spirit of
they did-
Christmas.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Came out in 95.
Yeah.
Thank you. So I got a VHS copy of that, and I remember
That's how they pitched it.
dying laughing. It was the funniest fucking shit I've ever heard. So that was 25 years ago. So of course the show is 21 years old. Makes
I just
sense.
meant
or
the movie.
movie.
Yeah, the movie to me,
Movie-ish,
I was in my freshman
it was
year of high school is
99,
when
wasn't it?
started. Yeah, but that put me in like my sophomore year. I was like a year after the show came out is when the movie came out. I didn't realize it was that fast.
Was it really?
That's what I mean.
So the show was out in 98?
97,
Oh.
Yeah.
fall
Okay.
of 97, I think is when it started.
They're the best.
One of my favorite characters, Butters.
I love how they've never, well, they kind of upgraded since then, since The Spirit of Christmas, what the animation looks
But
like.
not much.
Slightly.
Not much. Did
Yeah.
you see the documentary on how they make it?
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
brilliant.
What's
Yeah.
it called? 7 days?
Yeah.
Is that what it's called? 6 days?
6 days.
It's fucking great.
And they get to that point and they got like nothing, right? They got like two and a half minutes they got to fill. And then they come up with something brilliant.
Yeah.
Like Smacking It in San Diego or some other song. So,
Sometimes that kind of pressure creates diamonds. It really does. News Radio, the sitcom that I was on, the writers would employ a similar tactic. They would not write until like 2 o'clock in the morning. And then they had a table reading the next day. And then they would write. And then,
God.
but then they were loopy because they were tired and silly. And so then they would come up with this brilliant, like preposterous shit. And sometimes I think that one of the strategies they employed is getting delirious from fatigue.
Right.
When you're overtired, sometimes your brain works in this weird way. Now, I could have suggested to them marijuana, and I think that would have done the same thing, and you could have done it in the middle of the day, and you would have been fine, and you would have got a good night's sleep. But
are you more? Let me ask you this quiz. In all seriousness, from your perspective, do you think you're more creative when you're smoking weed or less?
no, I don't think it's less. It's definitely a different kind of creative. I think it opens up my brain to ideas that I don't necessarily think I would entertain if I was sober.
Okay.
What happened? You said the lights flashed.
Oh my God.
The government.
It's the government. It's they're coming in, and it's not because of the weed talk. It's because of the Melania talk.
Make sure we're recording here. Did it shut off? No, nothing. We're good. Jesus.
That's strange.
It's just different. Did you see? There's some study today that came out. I put it on my Instagram page that that psilocybin is 4 times more effective for antidepressants than medication.
Yeah,
and SSRIs.
Anything they can, boy, I tell you what, anything they can do for that issue. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, you think about the number of people on antidepressants.
Especially right now.
Holy fuck, yeah.
Too many people during this pandemic have just lost everything, and they're
Right.
freaking out, and suicides through the roof. Through the roof.
Yeah, and we you know, again, this idea that maybe fine, we'll give them some cash, they'll be fine. It's no, it's
Well, that ship has sailed. The people have already lost their businesses, and they gave one $1,200 check out months ago. Like, how did they handle that so poorly?
Yeah. Well, and then you look at this and you think, okay, Pelosi during her speech today, she came out and gave a little presser. I don't know if she took any questions, but it was like part of it was also this implication that now we're going to get to work on the next stimulus bill. And I'm thinking, what the fuck you been doing? You obviously clearly were waiting for this election to go so that nobody gets credit except for
Exactly.
you.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is. They didn't care about people's businesses and jobs. They put politics ahead of everything, and they banked everything on this re-election. And I accuse these liberal governors of doing the same thing. I think that was part of the reason why they kept things shut down. I really do.
No, I don't doubt that for a minute. I'm not, again, you know me, I'm not a conspiracy guy, but I have no doubt that they weaponized this whole pandemic issue for political purposes, and they played it very, very well. Look, this is going to sound wrong, but you know, it's a horrific thing. It's terrible. You never, wish it on anybody, but there's no doubt that this played into the DNC's or the Democratic Party's hands, and they took advantage in certain cases of it, right? And because they'd been throwing shit at Trump for 4 years, and most of it didn't stick, no matter what they tried, and this was the thing that worked for them, and they saw it pretty early on, right? And they saw that what the economy was doing, and that was his big ticket, right? Running on the economy was his thing.
Yep.
And there was just the one thing that could take him down, and.
It just shows you how dirty politics are.
Yeah.
They're willing to let untold thousands and maybe even millions of people lose their livelihoods just so that they could maintain political power. It just shows you how dirty they are.
Yeah.
And by the way,
it goes across the board.
I was going to say that.
Yeah. It's not just one side of the
No,
other.
the Republicans would have done the same goddamn thing.
Oh, sure. Yeah, just like the Dems right now, if it was flipped, they would be crying foul, as we've seen in the past, and they would be saying, we're going to investigate, and we're not giving a concession speech. We're going to take this to court. Fine. It's the way it's played. It's so fucking dysfunctional sometimes.
It's weird. It's just such a weird, divided time in this country, and it makes me sad. That's why we need mushrooms.
Yeah,
everybody's going to realize
it.
we're not that far apart in our ideas. We're not talking about evil people that want to eat babies versus people that want to save babies. Like the things that separate the right and the left, they're much smaller than we think. They really are. And the idea that America is somehow or another inherently evil and racist and terrible, and that's not true.
Yeah.
Like what we are is we're the most innovative and creative country the world's ever known in terms of like the impact that we've had on culture. There's so much to be proud of for being American, even though it's not like you asked to be American, right? We're all born here. We got lucky. Or moved here because you got it. You caught it.
Right.
You caught it early on, and you realized once you got here, like you could do a lot of shit here. You can't do other places, and it's pretty badass. But it's not perfect, and we could work together to make it better. You don't have to demonize everyone that loves America.
or you just have to accept the fact that not everybody thinks the same, right? And going back to what we or what I mentioned earlier, where it was like after the election, after it was clear it was going to be very, very close, and some folks on the left came out and started talking about, well, you just can't save these 48 or 49% of meaning people that don't think like they or didn't vote, for Biden. You can't save them because they're hopeless, they're useless, they're stupid or bad. That's a hell of a way to think, right? And then I saw that guy that the guy that turned out to be anonymous, right? Sort of that mid-level functionary, right?
Mid-level's being kind.
Yeah, I'm trying to be kind to him, but he came out and he wrote this bullshit article or op-ed that basically said, well, I thought it's not Washington that's broken, it's the American people. Again, referencing anybody who didn't vote for Biden, right? American, what are you talking about, fuckwit? The American people aren't broken, but that's the mindset that people have.
Exactly.
So, and I meant that jokingly. I don't really mean that. Of course I do mean it, yeah.
Well, he lied about it when he was talking to Anderson Cooper. He lied about being anonymous. Anderson Cooper, first of all, is Anderson Cooper CIA? He is, right? You can tell us. No one's listening.
No, okay.
But he used to be,
just
right?
between you and me? No, he's not.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But he was, right?
No.
Didn't he work for the CIA at one point in time?
If he did,
a lot of and a lot of ums. I don't like it.
I had never heard of that, but seriously,
what do you get the whole Rolodex?
I'm not trying. I do. We actually
CIA.
We actually still have a Rolodex. We don't use a database. We still have a big Rolodex, and you just kind of chunk your way through it.
Vanderbilt oligarch heir Anderson Cooper worked at CIA in
college. Okay, he was a summer intern. Okay.
Listen, bro, why would you be an intern unless you want to be a part of the agency?
Well, because
a lot of guys get a job at like a landscaping company. They don't work for the fucking CIA.
It's a great way to meet women.
You want to make money? You could drive for Uber, deliver pizzas. You don't have to work for the goddamn CIA.
Yeah, I don't think
he's a CIA operative working at CNN.
He's a summer intern.
He's a little too smug and confident.
You think so?
Yeah, he's got some backing.
Look, he looks too. He's too well groomed to have stayed in the agency for any period of time.
You know what's fascinating to me?
Beyond that?
Beyond that. It is fascinating, and I think we've confirmed he is CIA. Someone call Q.
All right, cat's out of the bag. He's still working there.
He seems to know. He knew that guy was anonymous because he gets the fucking the emails.
Yeah. Anyway, I didn't mean call anonymous a fuckwit.
I did.
Yeah. I take it back. Yeah. I take back the fact that I didn't. I didn't mean to call him that.
Oh, you did.
Yeah.
It's just silly. He seems more silly than he is anything.
Yeah. He was. Remember, he was referred to as the senior
yes,
official.
That's what's silly. I mean, it's just like, come on, he's not a senior official.
But we don't trust. We don't.
But that would make it more exciting if he was.
Sure, it would be. Of course, it would be, and that's why they referred to him as such, because it pumps up the story.
Of course.
And people don't
tell everybody what he said.
It's a disparaging book about the Trump administration. I don't even want to give it any time because I don't think it's deserving. But not that there's things you couldn't talk about. But I have this thing about people who walk out of an administration, regardless of which one, or walk out of an agency or wherever, and write a fucking book.
Yeah.
Right. I have a problem with it. Just shut your yap, right?
It's part of the gig, right?
Yeah, and don't, if you didn't get enough hugs and you come out and you want to, beat your own drum, well then, just don't. I don't know. We've gotten way too past the old point where people will just finish a job and you never ever knew, that they'd.
There's too many opportunities for opportunists.
I sound like Wilford Brimley over here.
You sound good. I like what you're saying.
Yeah.
There's too many opportunities for opportunists these days. And I understand if you're a guy who works at, fucking NBC or something, you want to write a tell-all book about whatever.
Right.
But this is not what we're talking about. You're talking about someone who works at the highest levels of government. You're supposed to have, don't they sign NDAs?
Yes, yeah, and you're supposed to, and like as an example, the agency has what they call a publications review board. So if you're gonna finish up at the outfit and you get out and you think, oh my golly, I want to write a book, and I know a handful of folks who did, and they were very good books, but they don't talk about, it's not a tell-all, it's not a, and they're not disclosing sources and methods. But the point being is they've got the PRB, and so you have to submit your transcript, and they go through it, and sometimes they'll edit things out, and sometimes they won't. But you're supposed. the idea that you come out and you had a unsatisfactory experience and you want to complain about shit.
A little distasteful.
It's distasteful. Yeah.
There's two things that I wanted to talk to you about before we got in here besides the election, in no particular order. Aliens and George Soros.
Hey, how do you know they're not connected?
They might be connected.
They might be connected.
But both of those things I find particularly fascinating.
I never knew that about you.
The George Soros thing just keeps coming up over and over and over again, where people that I know that are very intelligent and some that are very connected say that he's funding a lot of these Antifa rallies and protests and chaos, and that they're funding the political campaigns of people that are opposed to putting people in jail and that are promoting, air quotes, social justice and all of these reforms and all of these political movements that seem to be deteriorating the trust in law enforcement, and that there's some sort of organized campaign by him to do something to destroy the fabric of our democracy.
Yeah, sort of the one world government run by George Soros.
That's the Batman villain storyline.
Yeah, I think the truth is less exciting or interesting. I think he puts a lot of money into a handful of organizations, and that money gets funneled out for various purposes, campaigns, supporting organizations. There's no doubt. I think that his worldview is somewhat different than mine. But I don't think that Soros is, running some campaign to take down America. I think that's.
Why do you think people are so attracted to that idea? Is it because of Batman movies?
Yeah, everybody loves a big villain. He's an evil-looking guy. I mean, I don't mean that wrong, but he can't help his appearance. No offense, there.
But you look like you could be in Star Wars.
Yeah, I mean, he's got that look about him.
You can see him in a black robe.
Yeah,
Vader,
exactly.
your directive.
Helmet off, and there he is. Look at that.
Dun, 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 dun.
He could do something about those bags under his eyes, frankly.
He doesn't want to. He's got billions of dollars.
Yeah, I know.
What gets a person's rocks off when they have that much money and they're still trying to make more money, and they're basically, I mean, how old is he? 80?
How old is George Soros?
He's got to be in his 80s, right? He's in the home stretch. 90.
He's
90. 90.
Yeah.
He's in the home stretch, kids.
Does it say how much money he's given away of his?
It says he's worth $8.6 billion. I don't know about giving away.
He's not giving any.
Having donated more than $32 billion to the Open Society Foundations, according to Wikipedia.
Wow, he's worth 8. He's donated 32. That's a man committed.
Yeah, and see, that's part of it.
That's crazy.
The connection to Open Society, I think, is probably what helps to fuel it. But I mean, you got a guy that.
What does that mean?
He's an easy. What do you call it? He's an easy foil, an easy target to be. I mean, it's like the Koch brothers. There's no difference, right? It's just one side blames the Koch brothers for, trying to take over America, and one side blames Soros. So,
what is that organization, Jamie?
Open Society.
Oh. The Open Society Foundation support individuals and organizations across the globe fighting for freedom of expression, accountable government, and societies that promote justice and equality. Well, that sounds good.
It does sound good, doesn't it?
That's what's confusing.
Yeah.
So all these people that think he's evil.
Truth and justice.
I mean, but if I was going to be evil, I would hide behind something like that. It sounds like a perfect
Well, and you can imagine some of that money getting eventually funneled, making its way to organizations. I'm not saying it's happening, but an organization like Antifa or whatever.
Right.
The theory being, oh no, we're trying to promote. If you wrap yourself in the cloak of promoting equality and justice, most people aren't going to push back because they don't want to look like a dick, right?
Right. You can get away with a lot of shit.
Yeah. So you don't. But anybody who's got this is one of my things. If you're going to give money to an organization, do a little investigating first. Find out how much of it goes into people's pockets and actually where the money goes and what it's used for. Sometimes it's easier than not, and if it's difficult to find that information out, give your money somewhere else, right? Because it's not. There should be transparency around any operation that's asking you for a donation or for your money. But Soros, when he funnels that money in, makes its way through. It's like a pachinko machine, right? It's just kicking all over the place, right? So it's no surprise. But
so do you think it's just that it's an easy target for someone who's looking for like one person who's the puppet master, who's pulling all the strings.
Right. Everybody loves. It's a simplistic way of looking at things,
Yeah.
right? And I'm not saying that Soros isn't funding groups that wouldn't piss people off, I guess, but
There's more to it.
there's more to it than that. But it's like it's like that the Kennedy assassination. Nobody wanted to believe that Lee Harvey Oswald could do something as an individual that was so horrific.
All right, now you're going to lose me. If you really think he did that by himself, this fucking conversation's over.
No, I'm not saying that he did it by himself. What I'm saying is that people don't want to think that, right?
Because it's not true.
So you,
right?
but you close out
Right?
the possibility that it could be true.
Are you
right?
saying it's true?
I'm saying that there's a possibility.
There's not a fucking way in hell.
I'm saying there's a possibility.
What about the bullet?
You can't take that off.
The
You can't
magic
take it
bullet?
off the table. The magic bullet.
I take that right off the
Yeah,
table because
yeah.
it was on a table. It was actually on the gurney that Connolly was rolled in on.
Yeah.
Oh, look, we found the bullet. Case closed. Like, cleaned it up all nice.
I guess my point though, before we descend into
Madness.
chaos, into madness, is that you don't want to remove options when you're looking, and if you can't say, I mean, maybe you can say, if you can say 100%, there's no doubt. I tell you, I'm not closing the door on the percentage chance that Lee Harvey Oswald did that on his own for his own reasons and his own resources and ability to do it. I will say the MLK, Martin Luther King assassination is one where if I have to say, look, there's definitely shit here.
We talked about that before,
Yes,
and
yeah.
it does seem like there's shit there. What it seems to me is that the CIA definitely killed Kennedy, and that's why you are making it seem like it's most likely that
What else do you think I'm going to do?
I get it. I understand.
I'm kidding when I
makes
say
sense.
that.
That fucking
kidding.
magic bullet theory,
Yeah.
only a child who's never shot a gun understands or would look at that theory and think it makes sense. If you shot a gun before, if you know what happens when bullets hit bone, there's no fucking way. Look at that thing. Come the fuck on. That shot through two people, shattered bone in the wrist of Connolly.
Looks pretty clean.
Yeah, get the fuck out of
Yeah.
here. And wound up magically in the gurney. And oh, by the way, there's more bullet fragments in Connolly's body than were missing from that bullet. So, fuck you.
Well, I'm just saying. You gotta until they close that case completely, and nobody ever has completely. But I guess again, going back to the bigger point, if I had one.
Look at that bullet again. Can I see that bullet again?
Put that bullet up one more time. Oh, here it goes.
yeah.
Here comes that drawing. This is the official government drawing. See, like this. and
Here's the
this.
thing that's
Yeah.
wrong with that, though. Sorry, I got to blow my nose here. The thing that's wrong with
You
that
tested
picture.
negative, right? Yeah,
yes, I
yeah,
did.
yeah.
The photo. Show that picture again. Yeah.
Hand drawing.
Here's what people don't understand why this is not as ridiculous as the bullet. Because bullets do weird shit when they
Yeah,
hit things.
they do.
And I know a guy who, how do I put this? Shot a person in war in the face, and the bullet literally came out the same way it went in. Went in the guy's head, ricocheted around the skull, and
Yep.
came out the front.
Yeah, yeah. I've seen
Yeah.
forensics on that same thing.
Crazy
before.
shit
Yeah,
happens
yeah.
when bullets hit. But they don't, it's not that crazy. They don't come out looking like that. That's not a bullet that shattered bone. It's just not.
No.
It's fun. And people go, oh, the bullet's way more distorted than that. That particular image is a deceptive angle. Fuck you.
Yeah, that's
Just
not,
fuck you.
it's not a lot of deception.
Look
See,
at that.
See, they
No,
got,
see,
you do
it's
have a
slightly
you
dented.
you got a little dent there.
They shot that fucking
yeah.
thing into a swimming pool, kids. There's not a chance in hell that went through a couple people. Oh, look, see, the tip. You can see some of the lead.
But my point, my overall point, should I have one, is that with Soros, I mean, people like, you know, they that's why conspiracy theories and other things exist, right? And continue to exist, is because it's a fascinating concept. It's a fascinating story. You can look at Soros and go, yes, you're running from a secret lair somewhere under a volcano, an effort to take down the America, right? Okay, that's you know. That's one theory. Anyway,
We're all programmed by movies, right? These narratives that there is one secret evil person that wants everything to go down, and those narratives they're very compelling, and we've had them in our lives for so long. So many people have these sort of simplistic portraits of the world that they've adopted because of movies.
Yeah,
you
it's
know?
and we like a beginning, a middle, and an end. People like things to be all wrapped up, right?
Let me see that picture of the bullet with the goat. That was a little disturbing. That the bullet went. That a similar bullet went through a goat. That one on the bottom.
I had no idea
Said
they had a
bullet
goat in that.
fired through a goat, most closely duplicating Connolly's chest wounds. Not just his chest wounds, you fucks. His wrist too. Went into, and then just the fact they found it on his gurney. Oh,
Yeah.
whoops, we found it. Under no circumstances do I feel that this bullet could have hit a wrist and still not be deformed. We proved that by experiments. Chief consultant in wound ballistic for the U.S. Army who supervised tests for the Warren Commission. Exactly.
Yeah.
That other photo, if it did go through a goat, let me tell you something, kids. That fucking thing got a pass through. It probably went right in between the ribs. And even then, I don't buy it because it probably hit the ground somewhere.
I'd like to be that goat, right?
Poor
One day you're
goat.
out there eating grass and ivy.
How about they did it through 100 goats until I got a bullet that
Exactly.
came out good.
This is what we're looking for.
Even then, I think it's horseshit.
Yeah.
I've shot animals before. When you shoot an animal with a bullet, man, those bullets come out super deformed.
Yeah, of course.
They mushroom. They come out looking crazy because bullets aren't supposed. Here's the thing for people to understand. Bullets are designed to change shape when they hit things because it does more damage. So when you see a bullet that's mushroomed out, the impact of that bullet hitting an animal forces it to mushroom out. It creates a lot of trauma and shock, and that's what kills the animal. A bullet that goes through something like that would create like a pencil hole. It wouldn't do nearly as much damage. It would be far less effective, and they would re-engineer the bullet to have more of a deformity when it hits things, because there's a value in bullets deforming when they hit things. That value is it creates a deeper, more fucked
More
up
internal,
wound.
internal
more-
damage. Yeah.
Bullets don't act like that. With the only exception, and this is a recent exception, they use solid copper bullets in some cases. And even those solid copper bullets, they get to mushroom out. Because I shot an elk in California with a rifle, and we use copper bullets because California has laws against lead.
Oh, of course, yeah.
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 And those, I have the bullet at home. It came out all fucked up
Yeah.
like that.
There's the other bullets they have.
Oh, that they did the same thing with? Yeah. Look
I guess these were found like evidence.
at the scene.
Fragment of bullet that fatally wounded the president would be this one. I think.
Yeah, that makes more sense.
yeah.
Look at that.
Yeah.
It's a fucking chunk that looks like it exploded. The other one looks perfect. But like the other thing that drives me crazy is people say, well, then and to lean the other way, they say, well, the scope on the rifle wasn't even lined up right. Well, how the fuck do you know it wasn't lined
Yeah.
up right? All you have to do is drop a rifle and the scope is off.
Yeah. Yeah, it's exactly right. And also, it was a very easy shot. I mean, I will say that.
It wasn't that hard.
No, it wasn't hard at all.
Everybody says no one could have made that shot. I'm like,
kidding
I
me?
could have made that shot.
I'm
I'm not even good.
You got a slow-moving vehicle moving away from you in line.
Exactly.
It's not turning.
Exactly.
It's no wind.
And you have
got
a rest.
Good light.
You're
you got
off.
a rest.
You're leaning off the window.
Yeah.
That 100% could have been made by a person.
Yeah. Yeah.
And not just one shot. I think they could have got off all three.
Yeah.
I think that's provable too. I think especially you're all jacked up with adrenaline and you've been practicing
Right.
racking those bullets in there. You could have got it off.
Yeah.
That
that part of it is I think that is easy to understand. I'm not to disappear down that rabbit hole. I do find it always interesting because I'm still fascinated by the Martin Luther King thing because it's a rare day when I look at something and go, yeah, that really is horseshit there.
Well,
And
you were
and that
talking
one-
about how James Earl Ray, the guy who shot Martin Luther King, was funded. Like, clearly he was a loser, had nothing going on in his life. We talked about this before.
Right. Yeah, he's just a petty criminal and not a good one, right? Always caught. Always caught. And then suddenly he manages to reinvent himself, goes on the road, disappears, lays low, comes out, looks like a professor when he ends up in Europe after the shooting. Buys a Mustang, for cash. More cash than the kid the guy probably ever saw. It's just there's too many things here that just make it look like that. It's just so I'm not a conspiracy guy, but I look at that one and I go that over all these years. And we weren't able to kind of get to the bottom of it. Speaks to sort of the I don't know. There's just a sinister nature of it, I think.
I would never say I'm not a conspiracy guy because I love conspiracies. I think they're awesome. They're so much fun. But I don't buy all of them. I think there's a lot of them that are bullshit. But a lot of them are real. That's the problem with the term conspiracy theorist. People don't ever want to be called a conspiracy theorist because it makes you look like a fool. Fortunately for me, everyone knows I'm a fool. So I can say that I enjoy...
Right out there in the open.
I can enjoy conspiracies. But I also can say, if I'm being honest... I know that for sure people have conspired to do things. In particular, when you're talking about in the 1960s, there's evidence. There's a tremendous amount of evidence that people conspired to do a lot of different things. I mean, there's so much evidence that there's like, first of all, the Gulf of Tonkin incident that got us into the Vietnam War. That's a conspiracy. That's a proven conspiracy. They lied about attacks on America so that they can get us into the Vietnam War.
Yeah.
That's a conspiracy. How about Operation Northwoods? That's a conspiracy signed by the Joint Chiefs of Staff. They were going to fake attacks on American civilians. They were going to blow up a drone jetliner, blame it on Cuba. They were going to arm Cuban friendlies and attack Guantanamo Bay. Signed by the Joint Chiefs of Staff, vetoed by Kennedy. That is a conspiracy.
Yeah.
This is all during that same time period.
Yeah. Is it? I mean, I don't even know if a conspiracy is the right word for it. It's a
plan.
It's a plan. That's an operational plan, right? And then
they conspired to do it.
Well, yeah, that's good. Okay, fine. All right, fine.
Isn't that what a conspiracy is?
I guess that is a conspiracy.
The problem is the term.
Yeah.
The term makes you seem like a fucking idiot.
Yeah, like you're putting on a tinfoil hat. And
so serious people, which fortunately for me, I'm not one of those, serious people that want to be taken seriously, they tend to shy away from conspiracies.
Yeah. Conspire.
But I smoke a lot of marijuana, and so I like those conspiracies. I find them attractive. I go, maybe. Hence the UFO thing.
Yeah. The aliens.
So last time I saw you, I don't think the Pentagon had come out, because it was actually during the pandemic where the Pentagon came out. I don't think we talked about this last time, did we?
I don't think so.
Where they said they've recovered alien crafts. They said, we have recovered crafts that are not from this world.
Is that exactly what they said?
Pull it up, young
Pull
Jay.
that up, that exact quote from
It's a sketchy.
the Pentagon.
It's
Pentagon
actually,
didn't say it, yeah.
that was the guy from Vegas, the guy from Nevada. What is his name? Was he a senator from Nevada?
Harry
Reid?
Harry Reid?
Someone that
Former senator?
Pentagon former contractor was the one that said it.
Oh, you're thinking of you're thinking of he's got an aerospace business out there that was funded in part by taxpayer money. That it was a sort of a pet project of Harry Reid's in a sense. I'm struggling to remember the guy's name. I should remember it because we've talked about it.
Lear?
No. Aerospace buddy of Harry Reid's. Can we Google that?
Is that the Skinwalker Ranch guy?
No. This is this guy is. They've actually still got a business. He's still developing right now. I think what he's trying to do is develop portable living.
Yeah, that is a Skinwalker Ranch guy.
That is right.
Yeah.
Okay. Sure.
That is the guy. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
The name's on the tip of my tongue.
I know. But if he's the one who said it, then. Yeah, it doesn't come from the government. The ATIP, which is that Advanced Aeronautical Threat Identification Program. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think the most interesting thing that the government has come out and said is that yes, we did have an operation within the Pentagon, an office within the Pentagon. I've taught that was there to identify unidentified threats, right? So we get something up in the air and we can't identify it. It's like the Tic Tac sightings by David Fravor. Yeah. And those guys. So
David Fravor, for anybody who's interested in this, please listen to him on the Lex Friedman podcast, because I had him on, but I had him on with Jeremy Corbell, who's the documentarian behind that Bob Lazar movie, and by himself, Fravor and Lex, they get deep into the technical specifications of their aircraft and why he believes that no known aircraft could have ever operated the way it is, and also how it was blocking their tracking devices, which is technically it's an act of war, but also it showed that it was aware of them.
Yeah, he's very credible. I mean,
Yes.
he's extremely credible. He's a good guy. I've talked to him a handful of times. I've sat and reviewed the gun camera footage with him as he's walked through it. Very credible, right? So that was a perfect example of why they had set up ATIP, right, within the Pentagon. Apparently not funded anymore as an operating office.
Because they probably got some new shit that they can't tell you about,
Yeah,
because
exactly.
that one got out there.
Got to close it down.
That's in the New York Times
that's
already.
what you do.
That is what they do, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, or you reallocate the, it's all in the budgets, which is again kind of why we do this show for Science Channel called Black Files, because we're chasing the
We
budgets.
finally got to that.
I know, right?
Jesus
Right?
Christ.
I know.
We're
I
2
got
hours
like,
in.
I got like 2 other promos to do I haven't even touched yet. So fucking hell, people are thinking, wow, he's really slow this time. But yeah, if you follow the money, it's like an investigation, right? If not so much follow the money, but if you start pulling on those threads around budgets, or it's like with investigation and asset tracing, getting bank records is absolutely key if you can, legally get them during the course of an investigation. But with military operations, oftentimes those budgets for the most interesting projects and operational elements get buried into something else, right? That's just the way it works, right? And so that's where you
maintain secrecy.
To maintain secrecy, but that's it's so it's an exercise, and we don't obviously with Black Files we don't identify anything that's currently classified because we'd all end up in the who's gal, but we're looking at some pretty interesting things, and it speaks to where programs are going currently, right? You look at some things in the recent past and you say, okay, this is where this new development is heading.
And isn't it? It's an interesting conversation too, because for people that don't like secrecy and they don't think we should have secrecy, for national security and for the development of things, like the stealth bomb or like a lot of other things that show that we have military superiority over our enemies, it's important to have secrecy.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You can't function as a secure and safe and lasting republic without it, right? There's just no way. Now, people will say, "Oh, we should have transparency around everything." No, you got to draw the line. You got to you want to not overdo it, right? So you want to.
That's where I was going to get to.
Right, but
the overdo it part.
But you've got to have the ability to protect sources and methods. You've got to have a sort of a need to know policy around certain things, right, within national security concerns and the intelligence community. But yeah, again, it can be used as a weapon. You can overdo it. But
if you don't have security, you don't have the Manhattan Project.
Right. No, absolutely. Yeah, we don't. I mean,
you don't have many things.
That you think about
keep us safe.
You think about. China. Look at this. Now I'm deep into the show, and I'm just now bashing China for their theft of economic intelligence. But you look at the effort that they make in terms of stealing our intellectual property and research and development. Right? I mean, the idea that you don't protect your most critical information, whether it's operationally important or whether it's just again R&D for development of materials, and that speaks to the strength of your economy and. So yes, certain things have to be kept secret. But again, you can overclassify things, which tends to happen, right? You tend to just because you're trying to protect everything, right? So I'm just going to overclassify, and that also creates a problem then. So, trying to strike a balance, it's a human endeavor, so you never really get it right, I don't think. But
well, this is where people feel like the line when it comes to alien spacecrafts, and if the government knows and is aware of alien spacecrafts and alien technology, this is where the line of secrecy and being sworn to oath, where it crosses over into a need to know for the general public. Bob Lazar's story, the story about him working for S4. He was a physicist for Los Alamos Labs. That's been proven. He was on the employee list there. He also was listed in a newspaper article when he put a jet engine in a Honda. that he was a physicist at Los Alamos Labs, and he was a propulsion expert. Says he worked for Area S4, and says he was hired to back engineer UFOs, and says they never could figure out how these things worked, and that they were never going to because they really couldn't, because they were trying to keep everything secret. They couldn't share all this information with the general scientific community. And he's like, science doesn't work in these containment bubbles. You can't compartmentalize science and have only a few small propulsion experts sit around and try to figure this thing out, and then they fire and bring new guys in, and no one ever gets it.
Right, which is what you can use against. I mean, if I'm trying to pull information out of another nation, right? If I'm targeting intelligence from, and they're developing some new ballistic missile system or whatever it is, propulsion system, then yes, I'm gonna play off of that desire on the part of engineers and scientists to have a collaborative community, right? And the Chinese do that very well, right? And particularly when they target Chinese Americans working here in the U.S. in potentially sensitive positions. This idea that we're all working together, and this is just what we should be doing. We've done. My company has done work trying to protect information for companies, pharmaceutical companies, is a good example, where the scientists, the engineers, the doctors need that free flow in their mind. They got to have this free flow and this collaborating and this sharing of information. And meanwhile, you got the other side, where the bean counters and security personnel and all that, and they're going like, no, this is the lifeblood of our company. We can't risk losing this information, so we got to lock it down to the degree we can. Those two things don't necessarily coexist all that well together, but you got to try to find some medium. So, I think, there's the fact that the government came out and talked about ATIP, I thought it was a big step, right? That's a big deal for them, right? I mean, that they would discuss that. Do I think that they're hiding? Again, I don't take anything. I wouldn't take anything off the table, right? Frankly, because I don't know, right? So it would be stupid of me to say no. They definitely aren't holding on to some propulsion system that isn't of this world or whatever. If I don't know it, I can't say absolutely not. But
wouldn't you want to know though?
Oh, sure, yeah. But how? What do you do? I mean,
grease a few palms.
Is that it? Yeah.
Get in there.
Yeah.
I want to see it.
Yeah, I guess you could do that.
I'd let the government know right now. Listen.
Yeah.
I'll say a lot of shit that's not true. Just get me to the UFOs. Show me the UFOs, and I'll lie.
Oh gosh, yeah. No, we're doing. It is.
It's not true.
Yeah, it's.
I'm lying. I'm telling you right now. Don't tell me.
No.
I'm lying.
Yeah.
Because if you tell me, I'm telling everybody.
He's telling everybody. Yeah.
That's a lie.
Look, they know that.
I'm sure they know that.
They know that. They're writing it down right now. Whatever happens. But
it's too bad because I really want to know.
But
I would tell everybody.
I agree with you. Anybody who's interested, pay attention to look. And there's a handful of interviews with Fravor, Commander Fravor.
Yes.
But
the Lex Friedman one is my favorite. Yeah. It's because they go on for, I think it's 3.5 hours. It's really good. And they talk about all kinds of things about flying and pilots and the fact that you always have the same two pilots working together, the pilot and co-pilot. And they in the military, it's very different than civilian airliners, that these guys work together. They understand each other and they develop sort of the way Lex described it, as sort of a mind meld between the two. It's a really good interview, and he goes into depth about also the criticisms by these debunkers that don't understand the equipment. They don't understand what they're saying. When they're trying to debunk it, they're debunking it in a preposterous way. They really don't understand what happened. That thing that they followed went from 60,000 feet down to 1 feet above sea level in less than a second.
Yeah, and it's not like it wasn't picked up on radar. Right?
Exactly.
It's not like it's just one person or the guys in that particular platform that saw it. So, it's a really compelling, fascinating example of this, and still unexplained, right? Obviously, still unexplained. So,
still unexplained. Yeah. And when Fravor talked about it, when he first saw it, he was communicating with the other people that were on the other end of the radio, and they were saying, we are in contact with these things all the time. We see these things every few weeks.
Yeah.
They don't know what the fuck it is. And he described it in depth. I'm doing a disservice by paraphrasing him. But he was saying, okay, guys, what the fuck is this? And they were saying, yeah, exactly.
Right.
And we've been seeing these every couple of weeks. We'll see one. We don't know what it is. We have no idea. It was well aware that they were following it. It blocked their tracking, turned and faced them.
And no sign of no visible sign of a propulsion system.
No heat signatures, no nothing. And then moved off in an insane rate of speed to the point where they couldn't track with the human eye.
Yeah.
And it disappeared and then it reappeared 30 miles away. Like they were saying the way the thing moved, they can't explain it. They don't know, and they think there's something under the water as well. I think it was hovering over the water and there was actually something that was actually under the water.
Yeah. Some dolphin.
Could
Look
be.
it up going like what the
An
fuck's
octopus.
that all about? Yeah.
The boss octopus. It's pulling the levers.
Yeah, again, it's
fun.
It's fun, man. It's fun, and but I think that there's aliens that they come periodically visit and just observe and go, oh fuck this, and then leave. It does raise the question as to why if they've actually visited and they've been here, are they just is it for observation and then they get fed up with the way we act? And
I think if you were observing another advanced civilization, like say if we like. But here's a good example.
I will say that. I mean, it's all relative, right? Because if we're looking at that and we say, okay, say the Tic Tac was from some other world, then them looking at us, they're not going to go look at us and go, well, it's an advanced civilization.
Of course they would.
Yeah, I think they'd look at us and go like, okay, it's some rudimentary life, but
see, I don't buy that.
No, you don't think so?
No. Because we study fucking butterflies.
Yeah.
How many assholes spend most of their life looking at bugs?
But maybe to whatever this is, we're nothing more than a butterfly.
Right.
Yeah.
And so why wouldn't they observe us the way we observe bugs?
Yeah.
People spend their whole life tracking sloths.
Yeah.
They really do. There's a lot of people that spend their whole life studying plants. The idea that if we found an advanced life form, say if we went to another planet and we found some early Neanderthal types that were just starting to use flint tools, we would study them hard. We would be fascinated. Even if they were like, oh my God, they're like 300,000 years behind where we are right now, we would still follow them.
Fuck them up badly.
Yeah,
giving
but we
them
would follow
social
them.
media.
And I think one of the things we would do is we would probably try to do it secretly. The same way we do with indigenous tribes. Like North Sentinel Island. That's that island off the Indian Ocean that has a small population of people. I think it's down to like 39 people. And it's like against international law to visit. And that one guy went and visited a couple of years ago, and they lit him up with arrows. Remember that guy?
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
He was going to show him Jesus. Came out with the Bible. That's a perfect example. Like, you're not supposed to go there. And those are human beings, just like you or me. But they have the misfortune of developing on this very small island where their ancestors left Africa 60,000 years ago.
Some people might look at what we're going through right now this past week and think it's not such a misfortune.
Maybe.
What the hell? It's looking pretty good.
Well, with them, I think there's a lot of inbreeding because there's such a small genetic sample. So it's a small genetic group to draw from. But I think that if aliens came here from another planet, first of all, they would know for sure that we already split the atom. They would know that we have the power of nuclear weapons and that we have enough nuclear weapons aimed at each other to decimate all life on Earth multiple times over. Yeah. I think they would think that's pretty fucking advanced. They would know that we can send video through the sky. They would know that we can capture time in the form of pictures and film. I think they would be aware that we are on the cusp of some pretty wild shit. We're sending Teslas into space that are currently zooming around Mars or wherever the fuck they are.
I just I took my truck to the car wash the other day in Boise, and there was a Tesla that was sitting over on the side, and the lady was giving the manager hell because she'd taken her Tesla through the car wash and it like knocked off the side view mirror, and it was clearly a new car for her. And, she couldn't even take it to the car wash without it losing a piece or a part. And I thought, it wasn't a good ad for Tesla, frankly, but,
What kind of car wash? One of them automatic ones?
Yeah, it was what do they call it? Touchless car wash.
Those things can be brutal.
Yeah.
But I have a Tesla. They're well made, man. Yeah. I think that car wash is a piece of shit car wash. So
you've turned it around. I see what
Jamie's
you're saying.
got a Tesla, too. Step up,
Jamie.
tell him.
Look at you guys. Yeah.
There you go.
You'll be careful when you do that. Yeah. Yeah. Bring those side view mirrors in. I think that's actually in the.
They do come in.
I
You
think
press a button,
it's
they
in the
go,
manual.
"Whip."
If you go in the manual, but it says before you go through a car wash.
Yeah, but
bring those
no,
mirrors in.
I went to the car wash. I didn't
Otherwise
do
they'll get-
shit. I let them get slopped around. I didn't do anything. They're fine.
I almost went to the car wash one time with one of my dogs in the back of the.
Oh my God.
Because I completely forgotten. You know, I was running a couple of chores, and there's Hendrix in the back of the truck,
no.
and I said go through, and the guy waved me down and says, "Your dog," and I thought,
He's dirty.
"Yeah, exactly."
Kill two birds with one
yeah,
stone.
He'd be fine.
It's
He'd be
water and
fine.
soap. The dog's going to be fine.
Big 120-pound retriever. He'll
He
be
knows how to
okay.
handle it.
Yeah, yeah.
Jesus Christ. Relax, car wash guy.
I know. Oh my God. We got a. You got pets. You got
Yeah, I got a
Marshall,
retriever,
Right?
yeah.
yeah. And
They're the best.
they are fantastic. We've got that one.
Yours is 120 pounds?
He's a big boy.
That's a huge retriever.
He's a big ass dog.
What'd you feed him? CIA steroids?
We do, yeah. Because I still get those. I haven't been in for a while, but you know that's
You're on a
that's
mailing
why I
list?
think the world of the director, because they still send me that shit. But so then we got this big what do they call them, golden doodles, right?
Oh, okay, yeah.
And
I saw those.
she's supposed to be small. She's getting to be taller and bigger than he is. So she's like 6 or 7 months old, and she's a monster already.
Really?
And then we got another one of our cats died, or our last cat died, and so we thought, okay, that's it. We're going to simplify life. And then we were at the store, and they had like a rescue cat thing going on, and so we ended up with a rescue cat. And then we were out, and a fox got in the barn, killed this mama cat and all the kittens, and there was only one survivor. This was just like a couple of weeks ago. So now we got like this entourage again, right? Because now we kept this kitten, and I thought, we can't keep this little tiny, it's like a 2-week-old kitten. We've been bottle feeding this thing now for the past 2.5 weeks, and it's cute. It's a very cute, and it's a tough son of a bitch, right? It's going to be a great cat around the house, but it's just like now I'm waiting to get like a farm duck and chickens and a goat and
People have love-hate relationships with foxes because they're beautiful. They're kind of cool. They like to hang around people, but they will kill your fucking cat. They will kill your chickens.
Yeah,
they'll kill a lot
but
of
it's a fucking
things.
circle of life. There's cats.
Yeah.
You know how many birds those domestic cats kill? Holy shit, that's all they do.
Stunning.
Yeah. So it's one of those things. An animal killing another animal, unless it's like some abused fighting dog that has been.
Yeah.
And while that's just the way it works.
It's just a circle of life.
Yeah.
I watched a really bizarre documentary on Vice the other day about cats in Australia. And one of these guys, his whole house was filled with stuffed cats. And he has stuffed cats, like you take the head off and it's like a fucking mason jar. And he has cats. He takes the cats and he skins them and he makes coats and jackets and hats out of them. So this guy's wearing like a cat hat and a cat jacket. And he's got dead cats all over his house. But he has a book with a meticulous detail of every cat he's ever killed. Well, this is the thing. You know the situation with cats in Australia?
Well, the feral cats. Yeah,
Yeah.
I used to work on a
Yeah.
sheep station out in Australia,
Oh,
out in
okay.
the middle of nowhere, and so you'd be working the fence line or repairing the fences, and you put your hand down. All of a sudden, you had to wear gloves, right? But you put the hand in, all of a sudden, it's like this little cat had come out of nowhere, right? Some burrow.
Yeah, this is the guy. So he's got these stuffed cats all over his house. Like, look at this. His whole fucking house is filled with cats. And he's a cat killer. I mean, and I know, look, I have cats. I've had
It's
cats
a toilet
most of my
roll
life.
holder.
He's got a lot of different things he uses cats for.
Yeah.
I'm not anti-cat. I just want everybody to know. But these are feral cats that were introduced to Australia. I forget what they're introduced to kill off. But the problem is they bred at a spectacular rate, and they've become a huge problem for the native species. So they've decimated and sent into extinction a bunch of ground nesting birds and all sorts of different animals. And so now there's a bounty on wild cats, feral cats in Australia. And this gentleman,
He's making a good living.
he skins them, which is like really weird. Like he doesn't just kill them. And in the video, you see him shoot them and skin them. So he traps them. I think there's other people in this video that run around hunting them. And
Well, is there more than one way to skin a cat? Then did he answer that question? I went. Yeah. See, look. Yeah, everybody was
maybe
wondering.
that's
Yeah.
where it came from.
I think that's where it came from.
So these are all the lizards,
I think they were brought
centipedes,
because of the
insects.
rabbits. I think they were trying to solve a rabbit problem.
I think you might
with
be
the
right.
Cats. And,
Meanwhile, they killed all these lizards and bugs. And
yeah. No, they're all over the place, and people say, "Ah, kitten," And they just they launch themselves at you, and they
That's
can be
crazy.
pretty fucking mean.
They're also kept as pets in Australia, which is really weird.
Yeah.
One of the major invasive species that are causing detrimental effects to indigenous wildlife due to predation. For biosecurity reasons, any cats that are imported to Australia must meet conditions set by the Department of Agriculture, Fisheries, and Forestry. I wonder what those conditions are.
Yeah, you
You
gotta
cut their teeth out?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I got the teeth removed and the claws removed. Yeah, Australia, it's like the Everglades. Everything down there wants to kill you. Everything wants to bite you and kill you. Good God,
They're wild people, man.
I tell you, Everglades is a fascinating place. I don't know why I'm talking about the Everglades. People are going, what the fuck is he talking about the Everglades?
You know, they
But,
found Nile crocodiles there now.
Yeah. They found a panther inside an alligator down there. Yeah, that's just crazy when you think about that. I know there's all sorts of shit. I mean, it's amazing what you can find when you start reading about it. But that's a place where invasive species are a real problem.
Oh yeah, the pythons.
Yeah, pythons and there's a whole series of other things that they've got cooking down there. But
they caught a 20-footer the other day.
Good God.
Yeah, see if you can find that. The 20-foot python. It's so thick.
Yeah,
it's like a quarterback's leg.
They have these hunts down there, little competitions.
I don't know why I
just
said quarterback.
Quarterback is yeah.
They're not the biggest guys.
You know what I saw? I saw the other day. I saw Tom Brady in a Buccaneers uniform, and it was kind of strange.
It's weird, right?
Yeah, it is weird.
Oh, it was 18 foot.
Oh.
Look at the size of this fucker. Imagine, look how fat that thing is.
God.
Imagine seeing that. Look at the size of it.
Guys.
Now, meanwhile, here's the thing. Here's what's really ridiculous about California. Let's get back to California being stupid. They're an invasive species, pythons, and they're hunted, and they have to be. They're trying to track them down and kill them. In fucking California, you can't even buy python skin things. These are things that people are trying to kill. They're trying to kill them. So what happens if you kill them? Though you can't even use the resource of their skin to make handbags or shoes or belts or whatever. They won't allow you to import python to California now.
You probably have to take it, and if you kill one, you probably have to take it to the Fish and Game Department, right? And otherwise, if you dispose of it improperly, then you could be...
in Florida,
I'm
you
sure
can do
there's
whatever
something.
the fuck you want.
Fling it out in the ocean.
Because they're in Florida that they're killing most of these things. But also alligators, similar situation. Alligators they're not endangered species. They're in abundance. You can't buy alligator skin things in California anymore. Crocodile skin, can't buy them anymore.
Yeah.
What the fuck is wrong with people?
Well, but it's the continuing. Look, it's interesting if you think about what the fuck is wrong with people, and then you see the rate of movement of citizens out of California and to other locations.
Yeah, it's stunning.
And it's stunning. And then you think about, Georgia's a good example in this election, right? Georgia's turning, right? So Georgia may well end up having become a blue state. And why? Well, people coming from out of state. We get that happening in Idaho. People coming in from out of state. And you'd like to think, again, going back to the very first thing we talked about, self-awareness, you'd like to think they say, I'm leaving this place. It's got some problems. I'm going to go somewhere else. You know what, though? I'm not connecting the dots. I'm gonna just say that it has nothing to do with the way that I voted in the past. I'm sure things will be fine here if I continue that.
Yeah, well, that was the conversation that I had with the governor last night.
Oh,
it's
about
along
Texas?
those lines. Yeah,
yeah.
Texas is close to turning blue, and he's like, "Don't make this state what you fled." And he makes some very good points, and a lot of other people do too. Economic freedom. The freedom to be an entrepreneur, the freedom to start businesses and not be overregulated. All of those are real problems in California. They're giant problems. They impede business. California businesses succeed in spite of all the regulation, not because of all the regulation.
Yeah. And you can't if you squash that entrepreneurial spirit, right? If you take away incentives, if you take away just the idea that, you know what, maybe, I got a great job, but I also got an idea. Maybe I want to pursue that idea, right, and see whether I can turn it into a business. If you get rid of that either by regulations, or just by disincentivizing, people from starting a business or from creating something, it could be just a flash of an idea that they've got. I'm going to sound like I've got rose-colored glasses on, but that was part of the thing that makes this country so special, right? And, I I look at California, and I look at the movement of people out of there, and Idaho again being one of those places where a lot of folks end up, and you could see that happening. You could see suddenly a business-friendly state starting to turn, and that's I don't know. So yeah, it's if you don't like where you are and you're moving, maybe look in the mirror and think about, maybe I want something different. Maybe I should vote differently.
Well, one of the things that Governor Abbott was telling me is that fortunately there are a lot of people that are coming from California that are self-aware and are voting differently than they voted in the past because they're realizing what they fled, and they're actually voting for traditional Texas politics, like the way it's always been here.
Yeah. It was relatively close here.
Yeah,
I mean, I think they were expecting they spent a ton of money down here, right, on the races, and I think they were expecting that it was gonna turn
Texas blue.
Oh my God, yeah. You know what? Again, this idea that
well, you're in the blue dot. This is the blue dot.
Well, it's like Boise. Boise is a blue dot in a red
hippies,
state.
Huh?
Yeah, I don't know about the hippies.
Do you guys have?
Do
bears,
we call them
though?
hippies anymore? I don't know.
You guys have grizzlies. You could take care of those hippies.
I don't know.
You just gotta trick them into going to the woods.
You don't have to be the fastest one. You just have to be faster than the hippie.
You just have to figure out a way to come on, you guys are the CIA. You know how to infiltrate. Just infiltrate those organizations to get them to go camping.
Yeah.
Hey guys, we're gonna have a love fest in the middle of this area.
They just put pork chops around their neck and see what happens.
We're gonna hang our meat up.
That doesn't sound right, but okay. Yeah. Hey, speaking of entrepreneurs, this is where I bring in a second promo. It'll only take me a second. Buddy of mine did a great thing during the pandemic. While he's locked down, I think everybody in the lockdown thought, I'm going to get myself in shape, or I'm going to read the Constitution finally, or I'm going to learn a new language or whatever.
Right. I'm going to get jacked.
Yeah, I'm going to get jacked. Most people didn't do it, though, to be fair, right? And we didn't do it because we were day drinking because we had to homeschool the three knuckleheads. But this great guy, colleague of mine, had an idea, developed a small business, and now is got it online. He's trying to make it work. It's called Bird Dog Investigations. It's not for everybody. It's for a specific purpose in life, right? In terms of a particular sector out there. But it's to me, it was just that thing where you see, okay, someone's actually taken that time and they've run with it, right?
What is he trying to do?
Well, Bird Dog Investigations is a platform that it works in a couple of different ways, but one way is the world of private investigators out there, right? Because that's sort of the guy's business in a way. But it helps them in their operations. If you're a private investigator out in the field, right, you're out there and you're taking notes, the typical picture of a guy drinking coffee and trying to, snap a couple of pictures of whatever it is, insurance fraud or whatever it may be. And he's compiling all this information. Maybe he's writing some of it on a cocktail napkin in his car. And then he's got all this shit. He's got to put it together. So the problem, the thing that's missing is the ability to punch it into an app, right? Compile all that. It takes all the photos. It formats it all into a preset format that the receiver, whether it's a law firm or a company, if the guy's working for a company, it just sets it all in there. Look at that! My God! And then but it's also useful for large companies. Like you think about a company out there, a transportation business like FedEx or UPS or one of those, and their drivers are constantly. What's happening? There's fraud out there where they get sideswiped purposely, right? Or they set up fake accidents, and then people are suing a company like UPS or FedEx or DHL or whomever. And it costs a lot of money. It costs them a lot of money to get out of these accidents.
That's an epidemic?
It's a real problem because it involves the perpetrators, right? It tend to be the same. It involves law firms and involves pain specialists and doctors. They're all they're in on this thing, right? So certain jurisdictions around the country have more of a problem than others, big urban centers, as you can imagine. So anyway, if the idea was, this guy came up and said, you know what, if the drivers of these vehicles have something where they can, take photos of the situation, punch in all the details, it goes straight into a report that looks good, it goes to the company. Great. Now it's there instantaneously. They can assess the situation. They can react quicker. They can identify the frauds. So anyway, my whole point was, it's just good to see, someone
doing something good with their time.
With their time and again, that entrepreneurial spirit that I just banged on about. So there, that's me.
I worked for a private investigator when I was coming up as a comedian. That was one of my jobs. I was
Really?
Yeah, I was an assistant to a private investigator.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
What were you doing? Surveillance?
Mostly, I was driving him around. He lost
Okay.
his license for a DUI, and
shit.
he put out Dynamite Dickless Dave Dolan. That's what he used to call himself. He's the best. I miss him. So he died
my
a few years
God.
back, but it was I was friends with him to the end. But yeah, when I was 21 and I was an open micer, when I was first starting out doing comedy, I needed some other gigs. Just something to, and I said, oh, private investigator's assistant, this should be great.
Where did you see it? Was it in the papers?
Yeah, I was in the help wanted section.
You're gonna have to explain to people what that is.
And
now. Yeah.
just randomly, so I answered this ad, and it turned out that he was lost his license from a DUI, fucking hilarious guy, and then never drank again, never went to AA or anything. Just got himself off the wagon. He's like, all right, I got to stop doing this. He crashed his car trying to run away from the cops, and was like, fuck this. But really, really funny guy, like hilarious. And his cousin, this is random, right? I'm just answering this ad. Yeah. His cousin was one of the owners of one of the comedy clubs in town.
Oh.
So his cousin was this guy, Bill Downs, who was one of the owners, along with Paul Barkley, of the Comedy Connection, which was one of the main comedy clubs in Boston. And so, I get to hang out with this guy, and I'm telling you, out of all the people that I've ever met in my life, he's in the top 3 funniest people of all time. And he's not a comedian. He was fucking hilarious. Just naturally funny guy. And most of what we did was insurance fraud.
Okay, yeah.
Most of what we did was catch people. This is before the internet, right? We're talking 1988. I worked for him. So this is people that were mostly like, we caught a lady who was using her maiden name. She had some little fake injury, and she was getting money on the side. And there was a lot of that. There was a lot of people that were working cash jobs while they were also getting paid. So we just take pictures of them like climbing roofs with fucking bundle of shingles on their shoulder. And I thought this guy was laid up in bed. Yeah. There's a lot of that.
And it still is, and that's kind of where the world of private investigators. I mean, my company is not. We do larger multi-jurisdictional investigations and things, but the world of the PI hasn't really changed that much. I mean, the technology's made it easier and better to some degree.
But it's mostly fraud.
But there's a lot of the fraud. There's still a lot of sort of the cheating spouses and
yeah, he caught one guy that wanted to keep taking pictures, even after he's got all these pictures of this bodybuilder banging his wife, and he's like, "Hey man, you're a fucking weirdo. Like, you got to do something about this now. Like, I gave you your information. Like, get the fuck out of here. I'm not gonna."
Fantastic.
He's like, "Keep following her.
Yeah.
Keep following her."
I'm gonna need some more photographic
yeah,
evidence.
he wanted that. He wanted him to keep taking pictures. Like, bro, you got all the pictures you need.
Oh my god. Apparently
stop.
not. Apparently he didn't.
Yeah, it was like this feeble man with this huge athletic gentleman who was bringing home the beef.
Oh man,
slinging the meat.
Yeah, that's the world of the PI. It's a tough world. But
he was a funny guy.
How long did you do that for?
It wasn't that long. However long it took him to get his license back. I think maybe 7-8 months, something like that.
Okay.
I forget, but we stayed friends forever.
Did you ever do any surveillance for him or anything?
Oh,
like
yeah. I also, I was a cute little fella. I was very boy pretty, so he would use me to talk to the ladies.
Oh, good. Okay, I wasn't sure where you're going.
Like
with that.
I would have to, I'd have to, I was a 21-year-old handsome little boy.
Yeah.
So I'd go
Got
and
a full head of hair.
Yeah. I was cute. Yeah. And so I'd be the one that would talk to ladies and ask them questions. He had these little scams he would do. Like one of them would be he would know someone's license plate, and then he would make a couple license plates that were similar to that license plate. If your license plate was like XYZ, he would make XYW, XYO, and he would say, my girlfriend was in a car accident, and there was a witness to the accident, and the cop spilt his coffee on the paper, and they didn't get the license number, and I'm hoping that you were one of the witnesses. And oh no, I'm sorry. Like what happened? It was like, I have someone at the DMV, and they gave me these addresses for all these licenses. They know most of the numbers except for the last one, but I was hoping it was you. No, it wasn't. What was the injury? Was she okay? And he would say, well, she had the L5 herniated disc. I had that too, because he knew that she had that.
Of course, yeah.
And so then he would schmooze with them. Like this one lady, she was so nice. She invited us over to the house. She served us coffee, and I'm like, oh my God. And he's like, so what happened? Well, I fell down when I was on the job. She was an airline stewardess. I fell down, and he goes, so you're all right now? She goes, oh, yeah, I'm fine. He goes, but you're getting paid for the insurance, right? She goes, oh, yes. Not only am I getting paid, but I'm also working under my my maiden name for another airline. And he was like, oh, that's great. Wow. Good
for you.
And then after we left, I was like, she's so nice, man. She let us in. She goes, fuck her. She's a crook. She goes, fuck her. Like, I was like, how can you do that? That lady was so nice. She had us over. She gave us coffee. He didn't give a fuck. Dude. He was laughing. He goes, that's the job, kid.
That guy should have worked for the agency.
Fuck her.
Oh, God. That's it. Yeah, it's elicitation, right? That's a big part of it. Can you elicit information?
Well, he was really good at it. He was he was funny, and he was a smooth talker, and he seemed like a good guy, like a good blue-collar guy.
But he liked it. He enjoyed the work.
He loved it. He loved catching people. Yeah. He'd take pictures of these guys climbing ladders with the fucking shingles in their back. Look at this fucking prick. You're done. You are fucking done. And he would, he'd be laughing, and then we'd go eat lunch.
Well, shit, I had no idea. Look, if you ever get down on your luck, you can come work for my business.
I don't think I'd be very secretive anymore. It's really hard.
That's a good point.
I
you
get
don't blend
busted with a mask on.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Yeah, actually, baseball hat.
That is a problem. You can't really blend in
But
anymore.
with that CIA shit that they used to turn Melania Trump's double to look like Melania, I might be in.
Yeah,
give me a full head of hair, cover up my tattoos. Make me look fat. Give me a nice belly.
A fat suit. Like they
did with Thor. Did you ever see the fat suit they gave Thor from the Avengers?
No.
Pretty amazing. There was one of the Avengers movies, they made Thor fat. Okay. So like Thor had been just drinking and not working out anymore, and he had a big belly, so they put him in a crazy fat suit, and like they showed, there's a video of the CGI. It's really amazing. There it is. See, this is Chris Helmsworth, who's
looks like Val Kilmer,
goddamn specimen of a man. they filled him up with this fat suit, so they tucked him into this thing and gave him a big fat jolly belly. See, that's what he really looks like. Yeah.
He's probably happier. He's probably happier as a fat guy. He doesn't have to watch what he eats. And,
what he was happy as a fake fat guy.
Yeah.
So he can just like slap on that rubber belly and.
What if he wore it home? Is he married? Honey?
I don't know if you can wear it home. I mean, I think you have to take that thing off after you're filming. It's probably disgusting. You're sweating like a pig in that thing.
Plus, if you're married to Chris Hemsworth, you're probably not thinking, geez, I wonder what it'd be like to do him
if
he's fat.
Maybe you're tired of this Adonis
Could be.
slinging dick every day. Like, I want to get fucked by a fat guy. I'm a regular person. I'm tired of this perfect specimen on top of me every day with his perfect sweat.
Yeah, Gary doesn't even sweat. Oh God! So I guess I fully answered your alien question, right?
Not really.
Oh, okay.
No, you skirted around it like you skirt around everything else.
I know. Thank you. That's what I'm always accused of.
If you had a bet, if you had money on the table,
and remember, we do.
We have a little bit of money on the president race. Yeah. Would you think that aliens have been here or no?
If I had money, you know what? I would say, in the realm of what's possible in this entire world and universe that we don't know anything about, I'd say yes. Yeah, I'd say yeah, because there's just so much we don't know, and so I think it would be, again, that's sort of the, that's kind of like the operational, investigative, pragmatic side, which says you can't rule out anything that you don't know 100%.
When you hear a story like David Fravor, who's a super credible guy, and you've spoken to him.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
What was your take on it after you walked away?
I think there's something there that we couldn't explain, and now, there's a difference there, right? So there's a difference that says there's something there that we can't explain that, at least with the tools that we've got currently and the technology that we've got currently. That's not the same thing as saying the government knows what it is and is hiding it.
Right.
So, I'm not taking that jump yet.
Right.
And in part because, look, I worked long enough for the government to know that they can't keep a secret, right? I mean, over a period of time. It's just very, very tough. I mean, and so do I think that they could, everybody involved and could keep their yap shut after all these years? No. So that's the one thing that rules out the idea in my mind to some degree. Again, not ruling it out entirely that, that it didn't happen. But I think that there's something there that we can't explain, and that definitely bears further investigation. Do I think we're investigating it? Yeah, sure. Do I think there's some element out there within the military that is investigating the Tic Tac, as an example, what Fravor saw? Absolutely. I mean, we'd be silly not to, right? Because that's a national security issue at that point.
Well, I think what would be really terrifying to the government is if it wasn't aliens. Like if there was a craft that could go from 60,000 feet above sea level to 1 feet above, and it was a human created thing, that means that unless it's us,
right,
some other civilization somewhere on this planet has some kind of technology that's beyond the realm of our current imagination or understanding of physics.
Absolutely, which is why, again, that was really the reason for creating ATIP anyway within the Pentagon, was because it's a national security issue, right? Do the Chinese, have they developed some propulsion system we don't know about? Have the Russians done that? I mean, there's only so many options there in terms of the countries that have the resources and the ability. But so we should be investigating these things. We should be looking at this. Do I think everything needs to be out on the table? Again, going back to what you were talking about before, is there a need for secrets? Well, sure, yeah, there are some need for secrecy here.
You think there's a need for secrecy when it comes to aliens?
I would say that there's, potentially, because of. Yeah, that's a tough one. You know what? That is a tough one. I could see where you could argue, if we have anything that we know about alien life or technology or around any of this issue, that we should just come out, put it on the table.
My concern would be, from a national security perspective, obviously I don't know much about national security, but if I did, I would say I don't know if people could handle it. I don't know if they would be the best thing for these fucking dummies out here that I don't even know if they should be voting.
Oh, look, they're doing pretty well handling the election week.
Yeah, they're doing great. But there's so many knuckleheads out there.
Yeah.
If those knuckleheads found out that they were aliens, how bad would they freak out? How bad? And also, what if there are, and what if they're very rarely come here? But now that we have proven that they are here, how badly would other people, nefarious interests in the United States and elsewhere, manipulate that information and fuck with people over it?
Yeah.
That's another real concern. Like, if it is proven that there is alien life and that we do occasionally get visited by aliens, do you know how many fucking cult members would be created? How many people would manipulate that information? How many people pretend to have secret insight?
There would be a run on tinfoil, no doubt. But so I think, I guess, I mean, it would. You could argue the other way and say, well, if it had happened, or if, and again, I'm not saying that's the case, but if the government was aware of visits from other worlds, maybe it helps people put things in perspective. Maybe they don't freak out as much. Maybe they just think, okay, fine,
we're all in this together.
Yeah, we're all in this together, right? And so maybe it unites people, sort of like Independence Day. And then
that's
you get
that famous Reagan speech, right?
Yeah.
You know that famous Reagan United Nations speech. You never heard that speech? He's speaking in front of the United Nations in the early '80s, and he said, "Imagine if we were visited, if we were received a threat from another planet, how quickly we would put aside our differences."
And that's a good point then. Yeah. He was a smart man.
And everybody immediately was like, "Oh my God, there's aliens." Reagan's telling us.
He's not coming right out and telling us.
Yes.
But he's implying that he knows something.
If there was an internet back then, boy, would they went
God.
fucking bonkers for that one.
Yeah. Well, wait, what do you think?
I think for sure there is life out there in the universe, just by sheer numbers. It doesn't make sense that we're the only ones. It just the universe is too old. It's too big. There's too many Goldilocks planets. It's too likely. If it exists here, and they've also found evidence of life. I believe some of the trace elements of life on Mars now, right?
Yep.
Haven't they found?
Yeah. More water than they expected.
Yeah.
And, at least elements.
It just seems much more likely than not. Well, there's hundreds of billions of stars in this galaxy alone. There are hundreds of billions of galaxies in the known universe. Not only that, some physicists believe that inside every galaxy, there's a supermassive black hole, and that inside that black hole may be another universe with also hundreds of billions of galaxies, each with hundreds of billions of stars.
And another black hole. And
each
inside
with black
that one,
holes inside of that. I mean, it might the universe might be this fractal thing, and even if it's not infinite, the sheer size of it is beyond our ability to comprehend. Like when you hear the numbers, it's 14 billion years old. What does that even mean? Does that even register?
Yeah,
that's so big it doesn't register, and that's just as far as we can see back. To the Big Bang, and it's entirely possible that they think it's possible that the Big Bang it's part of a series of events, and that there's a Big Bang, and then an expansion, and then ultimately a contraction and a compression, leading to another Big Bang, and it's this cycle that goes on and on and on and on, and it's always existed.
I think the key there is. We don't know what we don't know, and just the sheer size and scope, and the idea that you'd have to be pretty fucking cocksure to think that we're the only, intelligent life in this entire setup, spinning around out here on our own. So, but I think not to take it back full circle, but it's that idea that if don't discount ideas, don't rule things out unless you've got the evidence to do so, right? And anyway, I mean,
it would be majorly disruptive. I also think that if there was some alien force, some species that's so far beyond our current understanding of propulsion and technology that they can travel here instantaneously from anywhere in the universe, why would they give a fuck who the government is? Why would they give a fuck who our president is? Why would they give a shit who our military is? They wouldn't care.
No.
We don't visit an ant colony and go, take me to the queen. I will not speak to you peasants. They don't give a shit. I think they'd be so far advanced that they would just be studying us with no regard to letting us know about their presence, and
they'd be cataloging us with all the other, life forms that they've found, and saying, okay, this is how these guys behave in a social environment. They're pretty fucked up.
There's also the possibility that there's many different steps along this pathway, right? Where there's insanely advanced, and then there's marginally advanced, like something that's only a few thousand years more advanced than us, that visits us, that's much more recognizable, and then things that are so far beyond our comprehension and so different from such a different environment and different ecosystem that we don't even we can't even understand what they are.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's. Again, it's arrogance to think otherwise, that there's other things out there, there's other life forms. To me, it just strikes me as odd that someone would be so definite and say, no, that's it. Yeah. Maybe we find a microbe out there somewhere, but that's pretty much it.
I think it's also comforting to people to think that we are alone in some weird way. It's comforting to people to think that it's bullshit.
Yeah.
Oh, stop with your alien stuff. Just get up in the morning, have a cup of coffee, and go to work.
Yeah, and don't worry about this election thing. Just all
the Republic will survive.
It will survive. It will survive. If I had one parting message for people, it would be that, look, just like we said, chill the fuck out. But if there's irregularities that are legitimate or should be investigated, that this process is going to work it out, right? Between, December 8th and December 14th, is when everything has to be kind of finalized, and then it makes its way to Congress. Congress counts out on like the 6th of January.
Do we have to wait that long until December?
Yeah, I mean,
you think that's what's going to happen?
It's likely. I mean, unless look, by the time we're talking right now, I don't know. Maybe Nevada's been decided, in which case Joe Biden's got 270.
Well, Jamie's going to pull that up right now. We're going to find out.
Even if he has 270, it doesn't mean that they stop the the legal procedures in certain locations.
Right.
And so I think that, yes, it's likely to go on, much like it did in 2000. It's likely to go on until December 12th or 13th, but there is an ending to it. So all these people who think, oh, my God, he's never going to leave and he's going to lock himself up, that's not the way this works, right? He doesn't get to make that decision. It's a legal process. It's a process that on the 20th of January his term ends and we get a new president.
Hopefully.
Either he continues or we get a vice president or President-elect Biden.
Hopefully,
Yeah.
or civil war because he hires his own security firm and they lock everything down and they won't let that criminal Biden in, and then the QAnon people become his consultants.
Oh, my God. Yes. Yeah, there is that. Never rule anything out, but that shit's not happening. And we were going to be just fine. Again, pay attention. If you're paying attention to anything, pay attention to what's happening in Georgia with those Senate races.
Yeah,
that's where the balance of power really sits.
and that's left and right. It's a very tiny little fraction, one side or the other, right?
If neither of those races hits 50% plus one vote, then they both go to runoffs in January. And that's where they're going to open up the spigot, and hundreds of millions of dollars are going to flow into Georgia for those races from both sides, I'm sure, because they know what this means, right?
Right.
If both of those races go to the Dems, then you got a 50-50, and guess who makes a deciding vote every time there's a tie in the Senate? It's Kamala Harris. So the Dems know the importance of this. Pelosi is already, she's a very smart political operative. She's focused on this. I guarantee it, right? She's trying to, in a way, kind of trying to save her job as speaker because they didn't do what they expected they were going to do. But they know how important that Georgia race is on both of those counts. So anyway, that's where people should be focused.
In 4 years, I'm looking forward to collecting $1,000 from you.
Man, maybe more if it's
Less.
President Trump again.
Yeah, less than 4 years, I'll collect my 1,000 because he's going to announce he's running
That's true.
in about 3,
Yeah.
maybe 3 hours.
Dude. Oh, God. Are you ever going to make your way up to Idaho and go fishing?
Yes,
Yeah.
I would love to. Yeah.
You got to come up, and you got to do a show again up there. The people in
Boise.
Boise keep out. Every time I say we're getting together, they're saying, "Oh my God, when's he coming back?" I said, "Well, not right now because you got the pandemic."
Yeah, you guys need to loosen your laws like Florida. You could do whatever the fuck you want in Florida.
It's been, it's been pretty good up there. We got the numbers spike a little bit, but
well, people are surviving now. It's
Yes.
not like the old days. People keep saying the cases are up. They are, but also survival's up. What's magical is the flu. It's been down so much. I think the flu is down like 98%, which I think something crazy like that. See what the numbers flu is down this year. It's something crazy. And I think they're attributing that to people wearing masks, which is really interesting.
Yeah,
it's
makes
like maybe we need to
sense. Yeah.
fucking we become a mask wearing society from now on.
Oh God,
I hope not.
Yeah, no,
I like faces.
Yeah, I like faces too, and it's just we will get back to normal. Pandemics end. That's by definition. Pandemics end, and we will have another one. Yeah. And so then you hope that we're smart enough to have learned something from this.
Mike Baker, always a good time talking to you, sir. Appreciate it. Your show. When's it?
Oh, hey. Well, thank you for
show.
asking. Yeah, we got that show, Black Files Declassified. We start filming the second season in January. And we are going to have an interesting episode on not necessarily on aliens, but on the program surrounding the government's investigation of unidentified objects and things. So we're going to dive a lot deeper into it. Hopefully I'll come back and I'll have specific answers for your question.
All right.
That would be a first.
It's the ad I got on the Georgia election
Dick
results.
Canes. Because we were looking up Dick Canes the other day. Oh, my God. That's hilarious. All right. Thanks,
man.
Mike. Appreciate you, buddy.
Thank you so much.
Goodbye, everybody.